call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Please be advised in the event of a fire emergency, an alarm will sound. Please note all emergency exits and evacuate well away from the building. At this time, we request that you turn your cell phones to silent. Thank you for your cooperation. We will be starting tonight with additions, deletions, and changes to the agenda. Dr. Chanel.
Yeah, so this evening there are several additions. You'll see additions under new business. We are right now getting some bills that are coming in from other school districts for things that we have agreements with them to do. So you're going to see some of that here. Since we don't meet again until July, just trying to make sure that we get everything through our board meeting for the closeout of our school year. You'll also see the addition of the contract that we've been waiting for from Hunt Architects and Engineers. I'll speak to that more when we get there. Under personnel, you're going to see new appointments, a couple of MOAs, and unfortunately a couple of resignations.
Thank you. We will be moving to a consent agenda. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the following consent agenda items as listed, 1 through 10. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. We're going to go on to communications, starting with correspondence and points of pride. We proudly celebrate our pre-K Raiders. The class of 2038, both AM and PM classes performed on stage for families, singing and sharing their joy as they marked the end of their preschool journey. Huge thanks to Mrs. Hopkins, Mrs. Pukos, Mrs. Fox, and Mrs. Stein for creating such a memorable event. Our youngest Raiders are ready to soar into kindergarten.
Our fourth graders explored future possibilities at Career Day, attending 2 of 4 engaging presentations. Speakers included a veterinarian, a CPA, a Navy officer, and a former teacher turned executive manager. Students asked thoughtful questions and learned firsthand about different careers. Thanks to our inspiring presenters for making this event a success.
Our 5th graders put their learning into action at BizTown, a hands-on economics experience at the Kodak Center. They ran businesses, balanced budgets, and navigated real-world financial tasks using the Junior Achievement curriculum. Big thanks to Mr. Leonard, Junior Achievement, and the volunteers from Paychecks for making this impactful day possible.
Our talented Raiders lit up the stage at the spring concert, featuring the 4th and 5th grade chorus, ukulele club, and both grade level bands. The evening was a joyful celebration of music. Thanks to Mrs. Peterson, Mr. Bowen, and all our student musicians for a wonderful night of song and spirit.
This year's STEAM Day had a safari theme and offered hands-on learning in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Students collaborated, created, and explored across grade levels. Thanks to our incredible staff, parent volunteers, and Genesee Valley BOCES for inspiring innovation and imagination in our young learners.
Our Raiders went out into the community to perform live under the direction of Mr. Youngs. It was an evening of song at the Stone Church in Caledonia. Student vocalists chose songs from their favorite artists to perform for the audience. This was our 2nd annual cabaret.
3 candidates from the class of 2025 presented their culminating projects in Spanish to a panel of administration and faculty members to earn the New York State Seal of Biliteracy. Students had to research and learn about issues affecting one of the 21 Spanish-speaking countries around the world. Using their literacy skills, students worked hard preparing their findings and showcased their proficiency in Spanish. Congratulations to Ava Amaris, Lily Clement, and Juliana Scott for earning the Seal of Biliteracy.
Camp Raider 2025. 32 teams competed in an incredible day of teamwork, strategy, fun, and school pride. This year, we also hosted speaker, author, and consultant Chris Collins, who travels the country inspiring students with his powerful message. Chris made an instant connection with our Raiders, and we want to thank our Student Council leadership for bringing him to the home of champions.
Thank you to the Caledonia, Mumford, and Scottsville Fire Departments. Our juniors and seniors had the opportunity to experience a DWI simulation as part of our prom and graduation party season. And I just want to say I went to it and I thought it was very informative, very good, very graphic, and it was very good. They even had the funeral director come there to get the person who supposedly died. So I think it was a meaningful thing, and thankfully the fire sirens did not go off that weekend.
36 National Honor and National Honor Junior Honor Society members traveled to the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport to be part of Honor Flight Rochester.
Our Genesee United basketball team played in their season-ending tournament in Nazareth University. We are happy to report they finished 4th overall this past season in Division I. Division I season awards, Partner of the Year Lily Johnson and Coach of the Year Donna Howard. For those that have not been to a game, I highly recommend you go. It's one of the best events that I have been to. Of all the things I've been exposed to on the board, it's one of the, I just can't speak highly enough of it. It's fantastic.
We were proud to be represented by 3 of our golfers at the 2025 Boys Golf Individual Sectional Championship at a very challenging Mill Creek Golf Club. Our Raiders finished in the following places amongst their Class C competitors. 4th place, Liam McCardle. 5th place, Tyler Cook. 7th place, Trent Kessler.
And our girls and boys track and field teams traveled to Dundee High School for the 2025 Section 5 Class C3 Outdoor Track and Field Championships. Our girls team finished 4th overall, and our boys team finished 7th overall. And congratulations to our Section 5 champions, Emma Bergman, Aaron Blaker, Carl Flavors, Sullivan Williams, and Jake Wyatt.
That might be the longest points of pride that we've had. We've had points of pride, so that's really nice.
It's June.
It's June. Fantastic, all the good stuff going on in our district. We will be moving on to board committee reports. Did elementary or middle high school compact meet?
I was not able to go to the elementary one. I don't know if it met.
Okay.
The high school one only met, we had our senior banquet, and it was a great night.
Yeah, it looks like it was a nice night. Thank you, Liz, for all you do for
Yeah,
that.
you're welcome.
Any other committee reports that people have to discuss or talk about? It's hard for me to see, so please, if I'm missing something, let me know. Okay. Moving on, guests of the board, we have none tonight. Next is public forum. Nobody has signed up for public forum, so we're going to move on to superintendent's report. Dr. Chanel.
Yeah, so first thing I would like to do this evening is actually introduce the Board of Education to the middle high school principal that you all appointed at our last meeting, Ms. Morgan Marcello. Morgan, will you just stand for 1 second, please? For those of you that were not on the committee, this is Morgan. Morgan, will you just share a little bit about yourself, your experience, and what brings you to Calmum?
Absolutely. I'm currently at Elba, the junior senior high school principal at Elba. I've been there, this is my 3rd year. Prior to that, I was the assistant principal at Garden Version. Prior to that, I taught middle school social studies and high school special ed in Kendall. So love the small school setting. I think it's where I'm meant to be. Very excited to be here at Calmum. I've been able to stop in a few times, and everyone's been super welcoming. The kids have been awesome. So I'm thankful and very excited to join you and be a part of this great team. So,
Welcome.
Welcome.
We're excited to have you.
thank you.
The next thing I will do is just comment a little bit about the marking period averages. So when we're taking a look at student achievement across the middle and high school, we're always paying attention to those lists for kids that are on the honor roll and high honor roll. And when you're looking at the comparison this marking period, I would say this marking period looks a little bit more equal to what we're used to seeing, where last marking period we did see that dip. So our kids are pushing hard as we're getting to the end of the school year and hearing that consistent message from the leadership to finish strong. Next up for me, I actually have 2 presentations on the dock today. We're going to start with our athletic presentation. So we have both of our athletic directors here. It'll be Mike Reed's last board presentation, and Mr. McCardle is going to join him this evening as his first. Yeah, so welcome you guys. Come on down. You'll have to come to the podium for us because without the microphone, the cameras won't be able to pick up your voices.
Make sure it's on, too.
First of all, before I get going, because Tim will take over at the end, and it's kind of like how we divided up the year. I was working as athletic director, and when Tim was hired, he came in and we kind of divided the stuff up, and he was really taking the lead going into next year. And I think it was a good transition plan because it allowed him to ask the questions. I was sitting there, we didn't have to try and find any golf place someplace. So that worked out well for him. So I'll start off the presentation and then finish. But I did want to say thank you to Cal Mullen, thank you to the Board of Education, Dr. Schnell, previous superintendent, for allowing me to be the athletic director. It was funny when I took my admin classes, everybody has to say, like, why are you doing this? What are you doing? Assistant principal, superintendent, and like, athletic director. They all looked at me like, what are you doing here? And I was just like, well, that's what I want to do. So I'm appreciative that I was able to see that happen here. Thank you. All right, so every year I come in June and I just kind of summarize what's going on. We do several reports throughout the year that come in. I just try to tie them all together. I don't have a clicker, so it's out there. All right. Maybe I can make it. All right. So last time I was here, we did talk about the code of conduct because it was the first reading of it. So there's nothing new to it. The things that we talked about are still there. Looking at students that quit was probably the biggest change. And a little bit of language just to help them understand how impactful that could be on a team, especially when you have teams that don't have a lot of student athletes. The student says they're going to play, and they start the season and make a plan, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I'm not going to play. It's not that they can't do that, but we really want them to be aware of the impact that could have. Code violations, so basically drugs, alcohol, substances. We had 2 student athletes violate the code this year, each missed time. We had 1 last year. It's kind of where we hover, usually is around, hopefully, maybe not only 1 or 2. And there are consequences moving forward, so as part of the transition plan, I'll have to work with Mr. McCarthy so he's aware of the student athlete and make sure that step 2 is a little more punitive. Step 1 is a little bit trying to help them realize what's going on and get them some help if they can. I can answer any questions too. Participation pass. So we talked about this a little bit at the code of conduct. We got some minor changes to that. You can see we started out in the fall, 7 passes used by 7 students. 12 passes used by 11 students in the winter. In the spring, we were really running after it. I'm not sure what happened in the spring. It was probably the highest number of student athletes. I think maybe part of it, I don't know if there was a schedule change or not, but I know a lot of students have a study hall first thing, some of our high school athletes, and so they were just like, okay, why am I going to here for study hall? I will say that nobody lost game time to this, so once they exhaust their participation passes, if they come in late, they're not allowed to participate, they're not eligible. We did have a couple get right to 3, and we had 1 get to 3, and then never was on the absence list again. So again, as we've talked about over time, what's the purpose? The purpose is to get our students here to school, using athletics as a little bit of a carrot, and then we believe as teachers that as long as they're in school, we can work. So I think the code works very well, even though the numbers were high. A lot of those are like 8 o'clock, 8:15. It's just sometimes where, especially maybe in the spring, if they're walking or to school or biking or things like that, they might just lose track of time. As you heard Dr. Chanel say with the academics, it's rebounded back, so I would assume that part of that was kids were out a little bit, they not get accustomed to it. That includes middle school kids too, and sometimes the spring is like their first athletic event or team, so that may also hit something. Okay, the percentages for participation, generally we hover right around, and seasonally around 50%. You get a little bit of 40s sometimes in the winter, not shocking. We have the fewest number of teams available in the winter, and they're not big teams, so like a big team would be football or soccer or baseball, where they have more students on the field or on the playing surface. You have basketball and wrestling, cheerleading. Indoor track has helped put it in that one, but usually in the winter it's a little bit lower. But the numbers have hovered around the same. And what we just see is, as we get fluctuations in the student population, then it changes. So, for example, we had a very small number of males in the senior class. Well, it's not surprising then that your athletics teams that require males are going to struggle a little bit. And then you can kind of see it go one of two ways, is what I've seen historically. Sometimes that next class up, so the junior class of boys, sometimes they meet that challenge because they have to step up usually a little earlier to advanced levels of play. Sometimes they step up, they love it. Sometimes you get sophomores that do the same, and you get a couple of years where you have the same kids playing over and over again. And then unfortunately, sometimes it also goes the other way, where because they're being advanced up, because of numbers not being there, they don't choose to continue the sport. And then you kind of get a little bit of a hole in there where you have maybe 1 or 2 years. So you can see up there with our numbers, year by year, it hovers around the same. Again, a lot of times you get a student who's interested in particular sports and they drag friends with them. They bring friends with them. If you have younger kids, you're probably seeing that now. Do you want to play baseball? Not really. And then all of a sudden, Tommy comes up and says, hey, let's play baseball. Next thing you know, you're doing baseball. So we do see a lot of that for us. On the last row, I'm not going to do it right now, but for the board members, if you want to look at it, you can click on those links and it breaks it down by sport. So baseball, softball, track. So you can look at those numbers in more depth if you want to. Obviously, myself, Mr. McCardo, the principals, as we plan and look at possible scenarios where we may have to engage in a merger discussion, those numbers are really important. If you ever look at them, I've started putting, a couple of years ago, I started putting the 6th graders on bottom, not because 6th graders can play for us, but it's always good, especially when you're trying to get a handle on the modified teams, like what it looks like at that 6th grade level. So again, we're trying to project out. Fortunately, many of us that work here live in the community, so we also have some firsthand knowledge of kids playing in different teams and leagues, and you can kind of see where it's going. Dual participation, it's grown a little bit. We've had some hiccups and bumps along the way. This is probably the most number of student athletes that have used our dual participation, which is playing 2 high school sports teams in one season. You can see also for the first time we had probably the highest percentage of kids that actually completed the season. A lot of times they may start and just realize it's too much. In this case, the only time we lost one was the spring, and really that was kind of a technicality. The student athlete just didn't make enough games to be eligible for sections. With rain every other day, one of the sports they were involved in was baseball, so we were trying to figure out how to get baseball games, and I can't imagine how a dual athlete was trying to make that work. So they did actually finish the season with the team, but there's a minimum number of games you have to play and be eligible for sections. They didn't need that, so that's kind of just like a nitpicky situation where technically team played in sectionals, student wasn't. Scholar athlete, once again, our numbers were really good. And so we've been honored each year that this program has been in effect. Again, you can look at the numbers of the fall, 51 student athletes, which is fall is generally our highest number of student athletes participating, 37 in the winter and 49 in the fall. Again, that requires student athletes to have a 90% average in the marking period during the season. Sometimes it's 2 marking periods at the average, sometimes it's just 1. Not that that wasn't good news. Now the really good news. So unfortunately this year I don't have any sectional champions to show pictures of. We had some very good seasons, some good results, but not quite sectional results. So we had Livingston Conference champions, girls basketball, softball, and golf. Section 5 champions as individuals, however, probably the most individual champions we've had since I started doing this report. We had Jake Bishop in wrestling, Emma Brogan in indoor track with 2 events there, Emma Brogan with 2 events in outdoor track, and then we had the relay team for boys track along with, just the relay team, 1 section. Several of those, you might say, like, what about Emma? I heard she's going for 3 sports at states, which she is, but she didn't actually win the section. She just got the qualifying standard. So those are individual section champions. And as you heard, Ms. Dahl, our unified team did not win their championship, but That program is fantastic, and Mrs. Howard and Lily Johnson were honored for their participation. So, probably one of my favorite, I guess, things, I would say accomplishments, but it wasn't like I did it to get a team effort, but definitely one of my favorite things that we've added to our athletic program in my time here. That might be the
May I have a question?
Sure.
Have you had students who have had to be taken off of teams because of grades?
So, no, because we don't have the academic policy where there's a hard grade on there. We do have it where it's informal, that if a student athlete is struggling, usually works through the teachers, contact myself, high school principal, guidance department, and we generally try to work together to make sure that they're meeting the standard that's required.
Okay.
So, like in the past, there's been examples where we had coaches that had the student athlete, not practice and sit there because they had to be supervised, sit there and do some work if they were delinquent in their work, or maybe they are, like I saw Ms. Polk today, not that she was doing it earlier, but given a review session, they might say, come to practice late, go to a review session. So our coaches and our teachers work very well together, and again, kind of the data we use is how well we do with our scholar athlete program. Our students perform very well.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Mr. Reed, thank you very much for your time at CalMom, for everything you've done, and we wish you the best in retirement. We really do.
Thank you very much. Now Mr. McCarl is going to take over, and it's like, I'm going out to pasture.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Mike.
Just echoing, Mike's done a great job as a teacher, a coach, and athletic director. He's put a lot of time in. He's done a lot of things for Caledonia youth and teenagers in our sports, and it's big shoes to fill. So I'm excited for the opportunity, but he is leaving a great legacy behind. So I really appreciated his support this past spring as we transition together. Just a couple brief things moving forward. I'm not sure if you have a live doc or if that's a PDF you're looking at. So my stuff is going to be behind you. The first thing is we're going to be offering our coaches, entire coaches staff is coming together at the end of June to kind of do a kickoff as we move into the next chapter of our athletics. I'm excited to lead that. We also are going to be utilizing our new nurse who is now newly certified as a first aid, CPR, AED trainer. So it's a 2-for-1 meeting. So we'll be kicking off athletic logistics and then also being able to do the first aid, all the certifications that they need at that same meeting. And we're not having to pay for that because that's part of our staff. So it's a really nice benefit that we have that's involved. So that'll be kicking off in June. One of the big things that I believe in athletics is developing the student athlete. So not just the skills on the court, but developing their strength and conditioning and their abilities to think. So one of the things that we did that we're doing this year is we're looking to build some culture. So one of the summer opportunities that students will be able to participate in will be Tuesday nights on the turf. We've partnered with 2012 alum John Capitelli, who will be our consultant as a strength conditioning coach this summer. He will be leading this along with myself, which this will be open for any 7th through 12th grade student, as well as our rivals players from Leroy. It'll run from 8:30 to 9:45 on Tuesday nights, kind of bringing in the power, the speed stations, game-like agility, high energy music, and that culture piece. So we're looking to bring everybody there under the lights to really have some exciting opportunities for our kids and kind of build that culture and everyone pulling that rope in the direction that we need to go in. With that said, we also are going to have a very organized Raider weight room opportunity. Coach Capitelli will be putting together an 8-week summer lifting program that'll be open to all 7th through 12th grade students and our rival students as well. They'll have the opportunity to come to the weight room up to 4 days a week. We want them to come 2 days a week. we'll be offering from 7 to 8:30, and then from 4 to 5 o'clock are the two options for student athletes to come. So, obviously for us to get better in competition, we got to get faster and stronger. I mean, we're getting outperformed in some of our sports in that area. We unfortunately haven't had a organized strength conditioning situation, and we have a beautiful weight room. So we're going to utilize that. We're going to be encouraging students to be a part of it. Today we did a huge kickoff assembly. John was here, Coach Cap, and it was an option for any students to show up. That's how many students showed up. And this was open for our 6th to 11th graders. We focused in on communicating to them the opportunities that are going to happen this summer. We wanted to be very clear with what was going to be available, and then Coach Cap led our student athletes through demonstrating some of the core lifts that will be a part of this this summer's program. So we're really excited for the energy that was in the gym today. We're really excited about how the kids took it. We had a lot of good feedback after. We had some competitions that were happening during it where we had a lot of hands up. A lot of kids wanted to come down and be a part of it. So it was a really good kickoff for what hopefully will be a very active summer of Raiders getting better, getting stronger, and working together, because the culture piece is as important. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for Mr. McCardle? That's good. Thank you very much. We are looking forward to working more with you.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tim. Next up for me will be a presentation by Brennan Colwell on contingent budget.
All right, good evening. I am going to provide a little bit of a briefing on the implications behind a contingent budget tonight and some of the things we need to consider moving forward. Here. So the first thing I want to start with, there's a lot of mention of the word equipment in the guidance and regulatory statutes around contingent budget, so I wanted to start off with that just so we have a common understanding of what that means. It's not football equipment, it's not just equipment in general. Equipment, according to NICID, refers to expenditures that have a life of greater than 1 year and generally are $5,000 or more for unit price. I say generally because the Kennedy board policy can make that more restrictive. So anytime you hear contingent when we're talking, or I'm sorry, anytime you hear equipment when we're talking about the contingent budget or anything that may need to be removed from the budget if we go this route, is referring to things that last longer than a year and cost $5,000 or more. I have some things down there that have been disallowed by the state and exceptions to that rule. Furniture, new desks, technology, certain hardwares, laptops, maintenance tools, instruments, athletic gear, new buses or vehicles, security systems, those have all been disallowed in certain cases. And then exceptions may include things that we may need, things like fire alarm panel after a failure, buying a new boiler, things that would keep the building open, replacing the kitchen range, and these must be classified and justified as emergency replacements. So we'll get to a point in this presentation where we discuss what that review process could look like if we move in this direction. So the big pieces of a contingent budget is, or how this falls on the Board of Education in terms of responsibilities and consideration. A couple items here just to summarize the considerations for the board. So the first is enforcing the administrative cap. All the things I'm about to mention, obviously we know that we're going to set the budget up with the correct administrative cap. That's the one big piece in this budget. However, that's all projected. We know that the budget is projected for fiscal year 25-26. It's on us and the board together to continually monitor that and ensure that anything that happens in those actuals still stay within the required compliance of the cap. That means, which number 2 brings us to number 2, budget code transfer restrictions. Under the contingent budget, the board must provide oversight to ensure that only budget transfers between codes that are allowable if they stay within the contingent budget categories and do not cause the administrative cap to be exceeded. There's not a whole lot of rules in the contingent budget, but the big main thing we need to focus in on is that administrative cap and the use for the purchase of equipment. And we'll get into ordinary costs in just a little bit here. Limits on new commitments. This doesn't necessarily impact us, but it's worth considering and hearing said out loud. The board cannot approve new multi-year contracts, leases, or financial obligations without voter approval. Just some examples here would be equipment lease purchases, multi-year service agreements, and capital project transfers. Got a couple more here. Managing the budget format, the board must continue to present, just like we would tonight, and report out on a 3-part budget, and it is recommended that the Board of Education and district review actual expenditures on a monthly or quarterly basis in order to ensure that the administrative cap is adhered to throughout. And that's just another mention. I kind of mentioned that already, but actual versus projected can throw those percentages off, so we need to know on an ongoing basis that we're proving that we're within compliance. And then finally, the last point here, just in terms of considerations and things we need to look out for, is funding increases with non-tax sources only. This is actually, I won't say a positive, but the only way that codes can increase is if it were to be increased through these items. So we could fund things through unanticipated revenue, available fund balance, or gifts, grants, or insurance proceeds. That's the only way we would be able to increase appropriations during the year, or purchase things that are not ordinary contingent expenses. So kind of delving deeper into ordinary contingent expenses, NYSE doesn't prescribe a specific formalized process for boards to determine whether or not an expense qualifies as ordinary contingent expense, which is interesting because I like to mention it quite a bit in this guidance. Many districts adopt a structured, transparent approach to ensure consistency, legal defensibility, and community trust. So in service of this, our recommendation, if we had to go down the route of contingent budget, would be to develop and implement the following processes to govern the allowability of proposed expenditures during the contingent budget. So we've established a board policy and resolution stating that this would be our procedure, policy, and protocol. Number 2 would be form a contingent budget review committee. Utilize a standardized evaluation framework for the review of those proposed expenditures. We would document all of those decisions, whether approved or denied, and then we would communicate and report out regularly to stakeholders to ensure that those decisions were being made in a transparent fashion. I lifted this from formal opinion of council that helped govern this this regulation. Is the emphasis on those expenditures considered essential to maintain an educational program, preserve property, and ensure the health and safety of pupils and staff. All right, so I'm going to take you through each one of those 5 really quick. This one, again, we would establish a board policy. We'd adopt a formal policy or annual resolution stating that the budget, hopefully not annual, hopefully just once, stating that the board will use a structured process to determine allowable expenses under a contingent budget. This is just formalizing a review process to test for ordinary expenses. What we're looking at here is how do we test to prove an expense is ordinary, and how do we make sure that if we're ever audited on that or called on it, that we have the ability to document to NYSE that it was an allowable expenditure.
I'm going to interrupt just for 1 second because this is actually the component of the contingent budget that I think is the most challenging to be able to answer community questions on. Like, what will happen if we move to a contingent budget? In the end, what you're going to hear from Brennan today is really that lever around the board's responsibility to then make decisions around what is allowable and what is not. So you think about our business in terms of managing this budget is going to boil down to having to create procedures that help us make sure that we're thinking through this framework around every expenditure, that we're thoughtful about it. So it has been hard to answer community questions when we've gotten emails or phone calls, and I imagine that's been happening to some of you. So just wanting you guys tonight to hear a framework for thinking around a contingent budget. So I needed to frame that for my own
Absolutely.
learning.
Could be as nuanced as a weed whacker needing to be replaced, and we might have difficulty explaining whether or not that is ordinary and necessary based on just the simple fact that that expenditure could last longer than 1 year. So we do have to have a formal review process for that. So the second part of the contingent budget recommendations here would be to form a budget review committee. This is only a recommendation and a hypothetical at this point, but I think at the very least that committee should include superintendent, business official, board president, or designee, and legal counsel as needed, or maybe on the committee full time. The purpose would be to vet proposed expenditures before board votes, and the frequency would be to convene during the budgeting cycle and after a budget defeat, and then ongoing, likely in a monthly basis, perhaps even at the regular board meeting. I have a mock-up standardized evaluation framework I have proposed here. We can add or delete from this. It just outlines the criteria for how we could discuss each proposal, from legality, constructional necessity, property health and safety, and community precedent. And what it really comes down to is the legality and whether or not the expenditure falls within compliance, whether the expenditure is defensible, and if it adheres to, or if it is in service of student need, safety, well-being, as well as staff. Really important piece of this, and I wasn't able to pull a whole lot of examples because it hasn't happened very often, but it would be crucial to keep a running log of all decisions made, including the expenditure, the justification, the committee recommendation, and the board vote if applicable. The documentation would help guard us in appeals, because it is important to know that any community member can make an appeal to SED on any expenditure we make throughout this time if we go to a contingent budget. So it would be crucial to ensure that we've provided ample documentation through our committee on how we approve that expenditure if we were called to target on that audit, or even on that appeal rather. We'd also recommend stakeholder engagement, create a public summary of allowable versus non-allowable expenditures, share with staff and community post-defeat or approval, including rationale for the program or staffing changes. We post this decision on the district website or during contingency budget reviews. I'd also recommend you could use this to either monthly or quarterly, we could call it stakeholder engagement meetings or newsletters, to ensure that everything we are meeting on to discuss is transparent and publicly available, to ensure that there are no surprises. And also this helps on, this also carries the weight of ensuring that any of these approvals are also considered against the administrative cap and how that impacts the, that end of the compliance for this contingent budget. All right, the next thing we're going to cover is that part of austerity, or part of contingent budget, makes it required that we set rates on the use of all facilities that fall within the district. Anything that is not compulsory for the student or for the operation of the school district now requires payment, now requires a price tag to be assigned to it. So we've developed a cost formula to ensure compliance and protect taxpayer funds. Two things that are important. It's mainly one thing, but a couple points I want to make before we move forward. The cannot just be a flat rate. It cannot just be something we decide, pull out of thin air subjectively, we're going to charge $50 for the use of anything. It must reflect actual costs incurred by the district for the additional use of that item. If it would not be something that we would be paying for already. Right? So if lights get turned on right now, and it's not for us, it's not a compulsory operation, we have to calculate the use of those lights, we have to calculate the use of everything that would be set up, maybe a table set up, there's a table set up here, there's an administrative cost associated with that. So these are all things we have to consider when building this next part, which is honestly one of the biggest lifts, I'd say, in a contingent budget. So I have some definitions here worth considering in the development of a formula. And so I'll just take you through these. If we move to this, we'll have to really dive deep into each piece of this, this table and make sure that we understand everything that could be used on an annual basis and have a really good understanding of what each piece could cost that would give us a cost per use. So we have facility type, estimated annual operating cost for each facility or each thing that could be used, annual hours of use, hourly custodial rates, where applicable, when a custodian would be needed, or where we would incur additional costs for the use setup or cleanup of that space, average custodial hours per use in the administrative overhead. I use the percentage for administrative overhead. I think this is an important one because this is the extra cost to administer tasks like scheduling, insurance verification, billing, staff coordination. And I saw a couple districts use it this way. This would just be a markup on the cost of the use of those facilities. So what I have here is just a simple table, and I want to be very clear, this is just a projection, and these are all estimated figures. If we go this direction, this would have to be developed pretty intricately to ensure that we know what the cost of everything would be, from using a classroom to using, turning on the lights for the field for a night game for a club team. So the, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 most left columns, you see annual operating costs, annual hours of use, hourly custodial rates, and average use per, or average custodial hours per use. These are all projected. We would obviously need to calculate actuals for all these potential uses and the actuals on the hourly rates and salaries for those individuals we'd be deploying, right down to the wattage of light bulbs that could be turned on for these events. And then price per ohm, right down to the, with using National Grid to help us with that. These will help price actuals for all uses of school property. And then I have another note here for the admin percentage. You'll notice that it's just a multiplier here. So all of those help us to get the hourly use rate for any use of a facility here, or any use of the piece facility. Then it multiplies by that to give us the final hourly rate in the rightmost column. The thing we left out here, which we could, so we can kind of go up from here or down from here. We can make it more complicated. We can make it less complicated maybe. The one thing I will say that we left out was the depreciation of our facilities here, which turns out to be, if I remember correctly, about $6 per 1,000 square feet. We have recommendations on that as well. So that's just to give, that's not to add as a discussion point tonight or add or subtract into this formula. It's more to make a point that wherever we decide to go, it can become much more complicated and more comprehensive on what constitutes a quote and how we would bill out for or invoice for the use of our facilities, or things that maybe we say, I don't know if that's fair or necessary to include in, and we'd like to make it a little bit more simple and straightforward.
You'd be surprised how much our architects and engineers and campus construction all have data on the way that they study our buildings to help us for capital project improvement. So a lot of phone calls out to folks that we partner with that have been able to get us back like our depreciation amounts and our square footage and what this looks like. They've studied our electricity use. So there's a lot of things that we've been able to collect So what I would say is we've collected things at a surface level. We've been able to call our friends and just say, hey, can you help us get some numbers? Not expecting the board to take action this evening, just feeling very strongly that if we end up where this next budget vote is not successful and we have to get back together, it shouldn't be the first time that we're talking about what contingent budget expenses might be back to the community, so.
What questions does the board have?
You're very thorough, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I think what's not mentioned in here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that if the community votes on a contingent budget, our administrators will be using a lot of their time to work on this kind of stuff, which takes away from directly impacting education. Is that a misstatement or is that accurate?
No, I'd say that's correct. I would probably extend that past administrator to clerical, office staff, support staff, anybody who would have any level of ability to support anything from setting up a lifetime table to cleaning up on Monday after an event was taking place.
They're going to have to be cognizant of their time, what that looks like, reporting that.
There's absolutely an administrative load that this places on our staff, and I wouldn't restrict it to just administrators, but certainly administrators, that's a very good point. And that is a very difficult thing to calculate as well.
I don't know that you can, but it's going to take away from our goal, which is to educate children.
Absolutely. All of this, austerity certainly takes away from the product for children.
Thank you for your time. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
This is for instructional use and things like that for the kids. What about, paying for, I don't know, proms and activities and all the different things that we do socially that are good for our kids? Are those included or not?
Yes, so this is not for instructional. This is for any use that is not compulsory. So when I say non-compulsory, I mean anything that's not required as a free and appropriate education by state law and federal regulation. So if it is prom, if it is a soccer game, if it is a math club that isn't sanctioned by Calamon, but they're asking to use one of our classrooms. Anything that happens here that is not required to graduate, is not required by law for free and appropriate education, would have to be an additional cost incurred by whoever was requesting to use that facility.
There's definitely a difference too between, like, I'm going to use prom because you use prom as an example. We don't pay for prom out of our school budget.
Right.
So prom is actually funded through student council, which is an extra class account through fundraising that the kids do, and then they pay for their ticket price. So there are certain things we already don't fund with our budget.
Okay.
But definitely when you start to think about, and I've had people in community emails and conversations that I've had, this has actually been the most challenging piece, is people want to know, like, I got a specific question, what happens to Camp Raider? So I'll use Camp Raider as an example. I personally, as former principal of the building and the designer have said event, I think having the obstacle course for the kids to go through as a team bonding event, I think that's pretty important, right? I've been willing to position budgetary money to make sure that that happens. In a budget like this, we could not justify something that we know, we could talk about social emotional learning and team building and why this day is so important. You would now have to look at every event that we do inside the walls of our school and say, not what the educators think is what's best for kids really in this moment, but if Joe that lives down the street sees this expenditure from the school, does Joe agree that it's necessary? And really what I'm understanding of this budget is that we have to be so cognizant of that, because the last thing that we would want to have happen is that we agree, a committee of people and the board then acts, and we agree that something that we thought should be purchased for the sake of the kids has been purchased. Community member challenges that, and the commissioner comes back and says, yeah, I agree, that should not have been purchased. Imagine the trust that we would violate in our community. So when you end up in a budget like this, you have to be more, we're very conservative in our spending. You have to be more conservative than you've ever been Because if not, that community trust piece, I think, goes a really long way. So we would become far more conservative in our spending. So how will it impact kids? We would have to sit here and go through every single event and say, oh, we won't buy the balloons. Oh, we won't buy flowers, right? So I think about like all the niceties that we do to make our events feel really classy and special. You will find us having to say, oh, but that wasn't really necessary. That's not really a necessary expense. It's nice, but it's not necessary. So contingent budget has that component to it where we will become so conservative to make sure that we're listening to our community.
And just to clarify what you said, who pays for prom? Student council?
Student council pays for
that's-
prom, and then kids buy tickets, and so the ticket sales actually pays for a bulk of the expense of prom.
But to my question, if there's a committee that's renting a room for that, they are then going to be charged for the use of that room.
When you say that, I guess I need clarity. Are you talking about prom?
Or student council needs a space?
No, student council is part of us.
Okay.
It's part of
Okay.
what we do. But let's say, for example, our facility at the elementary school is used by Boy Scouts. If Boy Scouts wants to come in, they're going to have to pay.
Okay.
If somebody wants to come in, a group, we have like the Hoops Club, all the little kids that play basketball for the Hoops Club. Hoops Club uses all of our gyms all year long. The Hoops Club is not a part of the school. We would have to charge every single time, right? So anybody that's not part of us, think about their bank account is separate than us. They don't fall underneath our charter. You don't hire these folks. You don't pay these folks. They're not part of us. Anybody that uses our facility that's not actually part of our organization has to be charged in this budget, in a contingent budget.
And so also, we have other schools that come for like the track,
Yeah, or
like things like that. Are those then allowed at our school, or do we then have to charge if we're allowing them at our school?
There's some nuance there, so I think you're not referring to like an invitational where we would also be competing. You're saying like York wants to use our baseball fields because they're more dry.
That either or, like
So
so
for
both.
invitational, if we're involved in it, no, that would
Okay.
just be like a home game. But in this situation, I understand York this year has used their baseball fields. I believe it was York because theirs weren't up to snuff to hold a game. We would have to charge them for use of the facility. That's an example.
That's a good question.
It's a good question.
So based on your presentation, it sounds like pending what happens next week, if the budget is defeated and we do go to a contingency budget, we're supposed to notify stakeholders with a newsletter justifying our expenses and the changes we've decided to make. I think that would kind of be a time for the community to speak their piece. If they did have an objection to an expense, to allow for planning throughout the year, I would hope that we could communicate that out if that is the circumstance. Yeah, it's going to be double duty for the admin team to figure out what we're doing. That's unfortunate, but
Yeah. It's going to be it'll be a lift, that's for sure.
We've learned a lot in the last couple of weeks here to drill this deeply into even our facilities. I think just in general, I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful that we pass a budget. I'm very hopeful. But we're also very prepared to move forward because we have to. We can't get stuck in a spot where we don't have enough information to make good decisions. So if the budget doesn't go up, our next time together, we will be asking the board to adopt a formula, right? We will continue to build and create the same way that we have been so that no matter what happens on the 17th, we're ready to move the work of kids forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
At this time, it is 6:54. We're scheduled to start our budget hearing at 7. So I'm going to suggest that somebody makes a motion to adjourn until after the budget hearing.
So moved.
Well, you want to make it? Make the motion?
I make the motion that at 6:55 PM, we adjourn the meeting until after the budget presentation at 7 PM sharp.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So are we closing this meeting and then opening a new meeting?
We don't need to open the budget hearing, so we'll close our meeting,
Yep.
and then we'll adjourn until that's complete. And then we'll come back after the budget hearing.
Is with the new meeting?
Yes, I'll open it back up.
Okay.
Is everyone comfortable with that? Yes. Just to be clear, we have our budget hearing at 7. we're going to close our formal meeting, go to the budget hearing. For anyone that wants to continue and stay after the budget hearing for the rest of our meeting, please stay. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we will be back.
ladies and gentlemen. How are you this evening? It is a beautiful day outside. We've gone so long. One of the teachers at the middle high school told me the other day that it has been 7 months since we had seen a weekend where it was not raining or snowing. We feel that, do we not? I feel that. So each time that the sun is coming through the windows, it's a good day. Welcome this evening. We are going to do a budget presentation tonight and then open the floor for a question and answer session to make sure that any concerns or questions that you all have are addressed. So I'm Becky Schnell. I'm the superintendent here at Caledonia-Munkford, and I'm pleased to present the budget to you this evening. To get us started, I want to talk a little bit about this budget. So the proposed budget is for $21,660,678. This budget, when we start off building our budget here at Caledonia-Munkford, we actually start by looking at all of the things that we need in order to build out our programs, take care of our students, our facilities. What happens in the very beginning of that process is we end up needing or asking or wanting more things than what we can afford. So the process of our budgeting is often spent where the administrators and the directors are submitting back to central office the things that they need, and we're beginning to weigh those things out. What I would say to you in terms of the community is that we know what our revenue is going to be. And it has been our commitment to the community to make sure that our expenditures align with that revenue. We like to make sure that we are not going to expect more from the taxpayers in the community than what you are expecting to see from us. So we begin to take our budget, and even though we've had lots of asks, I'm going to look over at the administrative team, there's lots of things that they ask for that are not in this budget. So this budget, just to help you understand some of the things that we feel we need that have already been cut from the budget, that's what this slide is actually indicating to you. So across the middle high school right now, we do have a block of time for our 8th grade students that we've been monitoring for the last 2 years, where the kids really do have room in their schedule to take on another elective. And so the original request was to add more of a STEM program across our middle school. We have STEM that we offer in grade 6. We do not offer it in grades 7 and 8. We offer it again once they reach the high school, and so trying to get some program development inside this budget. When the budget could not sustain that position was quickly eliminated. We also had an academic intervention teacher at the elementary school who resigned to take a job elsewhere. So when that happened, oftentimes, and I'm sure as we get into the question and answer session of this, you guys will ask questions about our student to teacher ratio and how we plan our budgets. And what you're going to see is any time that we have a vacancy in a position, we always begin to look at that particular vacancy and ask ourselves, is that something that we can live without? Is that something that we can rebuild our systems and our structures to handle having that particular position eliminated? We made the decision as an administrative team that we were going to eliminate the AIS position at the elementary school, and that we were going to fund more staff development to make sure that we're taking care of what we would refer to as best first instruction. So if kids are reading and writing and doing math on grade level and they're doing really well in the classroom, there's less need for academic intervention. So when you see AIS numbers kind of go up, it's really important that you start to challenge the system to start to look back down at best first instruction. So we have a commitment in this budget to do that and have selected the elimination of that position as almost like a spearhead for us to say, we have a new problem. We are short a person. And now we have to figure out how to create some efficiencies, and how in doing that do we drive some of our own data and make some of our own local change. In previous budgets, we've also had a strength and conditioning coach, a position that we actually shared with Leroy that was funded through our local BOCES, which allowed us to generate aid on this particular position. The position went all year unfunded, so it was another quick elimination for us when we're trying to solve problems in the budget, that we just take out the things that have been unsuccessful. So we removed that from this budget. We also have some summer curriculum work. Teachers will submit proposals for summer curriculum work this year. One of the things that I'm really pushing with the administrative team is that we get very clear around what our initiatives are, the kinds of change that we need to see. We're on a literacy push right now, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be the top priority of this administrative team across at least this year and probably for the next couple, while we fight really hard to make sure that literacy levels are in a place where we'd like to see them for our community's sake and for our students' sake. So we are going to reduce some of those summer curriculum hours that we have given to teachers for summer curriculum proposal. And instead, we're going to fund only the things that are back mapped into the literacy initiatives that we're running. So saying no more often to our teachers is not necessarily awesome, but it gives us the ability here to say we're going to streamline our approach for this coming summer. We do have some technology replacement plans. So when I think about a budget, and I think about this at my house, like every month, every year, there are certain expenditures I know are coming. I do have a mortgage, and so I pay my mortgage every single month. I can anticipate that that's coming, and I can plan accordingly. School budgets are no different than your budget at home in that regard. We definitely have things that we know are coming, and we must prepare for. We know that we have technology and that our technology is going to age out, and we're going to have a replacement plan. So it's been a solid couple of years that we've been working very hard. We have a replacement plan on paper. We just have not been able to get the budget large enough in terms of our ability to fund a replacement plan. We've not been able to get the budget to do that. So even though we've submitted again a request for some replacement plans, our kids are well taken care of. Our teachers are using older equipment. So we still don't have a replacement plan inside this budget. Our facilities team is no different. Each year they submit another proposal to try to make sure that we are thinking a little bit more long-term, not about just this year, but what does a replacement plan look like for us in terms of facilities and equipment that we need, so that we're paying attention to yearly buying and trying to make sure that we're not always buying when something has broken. So a little more proactive, a little less reactive. This budget also did not hold the maintenance facility recycle plan that they built. We are going to be under a capital project. Our voters approved the 2025-26 capital project that's happening across the district for the next year and a half. Inside that project, about 3/4 of our parking lots and the driveways coming in are actually going to be taken care of in the project. So we decided to go ahead and eliminate for this year some parking lot sealing. Again, if you own a home, I'm sure you seal your driveway every couple of years. You do need that. We can pull it for this year. That's going to have to make its way back into our budget for next year, or we will have long-term issues in terms of preserving our property. But for this year, that's been parked for momentarily. We also have been paying for a grant writer through a BOCES coaster. We are still able to partner with our local BOCES for some of the larger grants that they're going to invest in across the school year. We are in one for technology, so cross your fingers that hopefully that grant comes through. I was hoping we would have it back already in terms of that, but we're going to continue to look for opportunities to get involved in grants with BOCES. But this particular expense was an expense where we were paying to make sure that BOCES held out to write a grant for us in particular, something that we would choose and say that we need this. For right now, I'm putting grant writing on pause. Definitely something we need to circle back to. I do think in terms of generating revenue and the kinds of things that we need as a school system, grants are going to be very important to us moving forward. We had a request to increase lunch monitors at the middle high school. So right now, the middle high school does not have lunch monitors at all. So the lunchroom is monitored by teachers. That's the same time of day that our teachers are running academic intervention. And so every time that a teacher has to be pulled from their classroom to do a lunch duty, that means that they're not working with kids to take care of AIS. So that academic intervention that they need. So although the request came through, that was also not funded in this budget. But what's in this budget is also still really good for kids. So I want to celebrate a little bit about what it means to be a student at Caledonia Mumford. This budget, I believe, upholds the values of the community. I think the community expects certain things from us, and this budget certainly does that. We know that safe and secure school facilities are super important. Kids cannot learn if they are not safe. As families, you are not going to send your kids to us if you're not feeling like our facilities are safe. This budget definitely takes care of the investment that the community has already placed in our facility. This budget does have in it another camera project. We are consistently keeping all of our security cameras active inside the district and making sure that we're updating the cameras that need to be updated, making sure that we're adding cameras actually to our facility in areas where maybe we have some blind spots. Typically how that works is your building principals will start to notify district office of things that maybe happened on the campus that we were unable to go back and see or view because we did not have camera angles there. So the project, that particular project is still in this budget and supported. This budget does support 2 full-time school resource officers, 1 in each of our buildings. We do have an intermunicipal agreement with the Village of Caledonia to provide our school resource officers. You'll see Officer Burnside back there. He's actually working for us right now on that contract. Whenever we invite the community in for board meetings, our SROs are present. So we like to think about the safety of our facility with all of the decisions that we make, and that is true of this budget. This budget request is also asking you to approve a school bus. We do have a school bus replacement plan. So if we do not purchase a school bus every year, that basically means we're going to get off track in that recycle plan that we have. We run our buses between 12 and 13 years. At that 12 to 13 year mark, it doesn't mean we necessarily retire a bus. The bus might actually come out of our regular fleet and move into a fleet where it's doing only short runs for a field trip. But we have a great transportation replacement plan, and this budget is asking that we maintain that. We have 1 full-time mechanic over in the bus garage, and so just thinking about what happens when you don't have buses on a replacement plan, you would actually kind of increase your costs in other ways. And so we have been able to develop a replacement plan that allows us to only have 1 full-time mechanic in the district. This particular budget also includes, and we'll talk about it as we get down a few slides, but this budget is asking for what we call a capital outlay project. Every year in the state of New York, school districts are allowed to do a capital outlay project up to $100,000. It does generate state aid, and we'll talk about that. The capital outlay project is included in this budget, and it would allow us to update some of the HVAC systems in this building from old technology to new technology, which in the end does save us in terms of energy consumption and energy management. This budget also offers a high-quality academic program, pre-K through 12. So there are no cuts in this budget to our programming. Still offering all of our advanced placement courses, all of our college-level dual enrollment courses, and all the way down to our pre-K students. This budget definitely maintains all of our extracurriculars, a push that the district has been on since we did our last strategic plan was to try to make sure that we increase opportunities for kids across all grade levels to be connected to their school. So one thing we know to be true, your school is safer every time a child feels like they are seen and they are heard inside your school walls. Baking club is important. If you don't have it, someone doesn't have something to do after school here on our campus. So this budget supports all those extracurriculars that help make sure that kids see themselves as part of our school community. So how do we come up with our budget? Well, we first start looking at revenue, to be honest. Like our cuts do begin to come through when we realize that our revenue is actually not going to keep up with the expenditures that we have proposed. And so that's really where we start to go back to the administrative team and talk about where the cuts are going to have to come. So these are our revenue sources. You'll notice there that we do get a majority of our school is funded through state aid in terms of our overall budget that we expend. This year, boy, it was great, you guys. We got a $600,000 increase in state aid this year. I can't imagine where we'd be sitting in terms of our budget had we not got those increases in state aid. That has not been the past for Caledonia-Lunford. I don't predict that that will be in our future to see major increases in aid. So taking that into consideration, this budget now, because we did have the budget vote go down, we have now adjusted to say that we are not going to collect the tax levy for this particular budget. So we were asking the community for a 2.3% tax levy increase. We're now going out with a second budget where we're asking for a 0% tax levy increase. So what you'll notice in this table is that to make up the difference between what we originally needed, when we're not going to collect tax, how are we going to backfill the gap? The Board of Education has decided that we will actually use a little bit more in reserves in order to take care of what we would have collected in tax for this year. So I've been asked in the last couple of weeks, why are we going back out with the exact same appropriation? Why didn't we maybe make a decision to cut something? I think just in general, my response to you would be, we run a very, very conservative and efficient budget here in Caledonia. When we start to have conversations with our community about where our cuts will be, you really are going to start talking about cuts to That didn't seem like a decision we should make in a matter of a week. It seems like a decision we should go out with a 0% tax levy increase, use a little bit of our reserves to take care of this issue for this moment, and then engage the community in real conversations around, like I said in my previous slide, I think the community has come to expect a particular kind of educational experience here. To make a decision in the moment to do something different would have meant we were doing that without the community weighing in on what are we going to let go of? What is maybe no longer that important to us in order to make significant change here? So we can talk about that when we get into the Q&A. But I did want to show you the reserves. Every year when we build budgets, we do use reserves to build our budgets. The board is always appropriating reserves to take care of budget pieces. So you'll notice that what we did in our original proposal, we did take the reserves, and you'll see it in the bottom slide. This will post to our website too, which I think will be easier to read once you're looking at it there. But originally what we would do is take all of our reserves and what was being allocated out of them and put them in separate budget lines. But for this conversation, I wanted to make sure that you guys would see that what we have now done is increased our reserves. Where we were going to rely on $1.1 million, we're now going to rely on 1.4. So year over year, you're talking about a 28% increase in our reliance on reserves in order to balance this particular budget. Our three-part budget. The state of New York actually requires that we think about ourselves in these three categories. Okay, so we have an administrative category, a capital component, and we have our program component. Think about program as every single thing that the children touch. The program component of our budget is the largest budget. It's everything from athletics to Chromebooks, you name it. If the kids touch it, if it's part of their daily experience, that's actually where it shows up. The capital component is everything that we do to take care of our facility. It's our capital. It's every building. It's all of our grounds, all of the things that our facilities team uses to keep us healthy every day, and the bills that kind of come in around our facility. And the administrative component of our budget is anything that we pay that allows us to generate the other two. So I'll give you some hard examples around the administrative components. I've had folks ask me in the last couple of weeks, is that just your administrators? It's not just the administrators. It's administrators, it's directors, it's everybody that's kind of leading and building and doing in order to keep the system moving. So not thinking about it just as the principal and the assistant principal that are in the building, but everybody that it kind of takes and all the bills that come in to be able to manage our programs. So our budget to budget increases, you'll see here based on percent sort of where our expenses are. And I'll go back to, we are a people business. The majority of our expenses are always going to be, you saw the instructional component of that pie graph. The expense we're always going to have is going to be people driven. So it's always going to be based on salaries and benefits for all of the educators, all of the support staff, all of the administrators, really everyone that works here. Those are the major increases that we're also seeing in terms of our budget. Major increases in healthcare costs. So whenever we see those major increases, they are built into our budgets. I would say another big driver of our budget this year, and it is not just Caledonia Mumford, it is across the state of New York, is that we are seeing massive increases in terms of proportionality to our budgets and the increase of cost to educate students with disabilities. One thing I will denote that I think is really important, because this sort of shows in that bottom corner that total overall percent increase is at 5.1%. And I think just in general, when I'm thinking budget to budget, I think 5.1% budget to budget seems like a pretty big increase. So I want to talk about that with you for a second. We just took on a capital project. So the capital project is the 2025-2026 capital project. So you're going to see that when that debt service and transfers, that's our capital project coming on board. That actually increases overall what our budget is going to be, but it does not impact the levy. So if we were to pull the capital project back out of this slide and say that we aren't even going to talk about that because that's been funded through reserve and taken care of by public vote, if we were to pull that back out of here, you're talking about a budget-to-budget increase of 3.98. We're doing really well in terms of the rate of inflation, of holding our expenditures down as best as we can. So right now, we are proposing tax that would be at 0% increase to the tax levy. A 0% increase to the tax levy means whatever you paid in school tax last year is what you will pay in school tax this coming year. No increase to what your tax bill will look like. This is our property tax report card. Again, you're going to see in that proposed levy, last year we collected the 7.9, and in this proposed budget we would be collecting 7.9. Our capital outlay project, as I mentioned to you, $100,000 that we would like to spend in this budget. One thing that has sparked a little bit of interest just in my conversation with community is that folks don't necessarily understand that as a school we generate state aid. So I like to think about state aid as the state already came into your paycheck and they took taxes and they took them to the state. And they're in this big bucket up there. And every bucket of money that the state has, they actually decide how it's going to be spent. There is a series of dollars that are considered aidable money. So when we do a capital outlay project of $100,000, we are actually going to generate back in aid $86,000. So in the end, we're going to do $100,000 worth of work, but that is not what we pay for it when it is all said and done. So I want to go back to like that cycle. So one thing that I would like to just communicate in terms of what it will look like for us if the capital outlay project comes off. We end up in a contingent budget and we don't have a capital outlay project. We really project both our expenditures and our revenue. We always do a capital outlay project. So we always have the aid revenue coming back in. The moment we take, whether you're talking about buying the bus or you're talking about the capital outlay project, the moment we take those away, that actually comes with an impact in revenue. Not just that we didn't get the capital improvement on our facility, but we also then don't get the revenue. So I've had some folks say, well, but that just means you're saving money. Well, you could look at it that way, except we won't have a bus, right? You could say, well, you'd be saving money, but we would still have an HVAC system here at the middle high school that we're struggling to maintain, which means we're expending money in other ways. So when we're thinking about our capital outlay project, we're strategically choosing this HVAC system because it cost us quite a bit in this last year. We had some heating issues in our gymnasiums. The heat was stuck on. And to come in on a Saturday morning for a wrestling tournament and have the gym be 80-some degrees, first of all, what a waste. Second of all, it's a Saturday morning service cost. So we start to think in our capital outlay project around what is it that's causing us to have to spend reactively because we're not being proactive. This capital outlay project is designed to take care of something that we have been reacting to. We'd like to get proactive about. So on June 17th, when folks come out to vote for this budget, you will see two propositions on the ballot. The first proposition is to approve the budget of $21,660,678. The language inside the proposal, I just want to make sure that we're clear. You will see, even on your ballot in red, written by our attorneys to make sure that the way that this was written is as clear as it needs to be for legal reasons. You will not see a tax increase from Caledonia Member Central Schools. The same will be true for proposition number 2. We are asking that you give us permission. You have to give us permission for two things in proposition number 2. We have a reserve, a capital equipment reserve, that was established by voters in 2023. So we established the reserve with your permission. We have put money into that reserve. We now need your permission to spend money out of that reserve. So in the second proposition, you're actually going to give us permission to spend out of the reserve and to do so in order to buy a school bus. So that second proposition also does not have any increase in the tax rate. And you'll see it in red even on your ballot when you come in to vote. What questions do you have? Yes.
I just wondered if you could clarify for people how.
Yeah. Because we recorded last night, if we don't use a microphone, members of the community that want to watch us in the aftermath can't hear us.
If you could clarify for the people here in the audience, something we've talked about before, is talking about how the reserves got so high because of the quote-unquote COVID money and the stimulus money, and how we're using that to spread out over the years, and how the idea was to use it strategically rather than try to hire new teachers that you would then have to lay off later on.
Oh, where's that slide?
Because you don't have any money anymore. So I wasn't here as part of that process, and I would have been wondering the same question.
I swear I have a slide for you.
But I think the important part was
I agree.
the reserves came from that, not from being overtaxed.
Yeah, so I hope you all got a budget newsletter, this second one that we put out. Got a nice spread on the inside, I love it. Thank you for your newsletter. I do think that this is something that we've been trying to discuss. So it's connected back to that comptroller's report, and here's the deal. I am not afraid to have a conversation with anybody in the community about what the comptroller's report said, what about it is real and that we need to address. And what about sometimes the way in which things are communicated or written about makes them very salacious. So you are correct that the money that you see in the reserves actually came in because we were awarded stimulus money, just like every other school in the state of New York. So when the stimulus money came in, I was principal in the middle high school, and I can tell you what it looked like from the inside of challenging us around the use of stimulus money. Superintendent Malasani was determined not to waste this opportunity. He did not want to take stimulus money and have us invested in something like hiring a teacher or hiring a social worker or hiring 3 more counselors, only to have that increase our overall budget because we had an increase in revenue that wasn't going to stay. The increase in revenue wasn't going to stay. It's gone. We are not expecting that money to continue coming in. So everything that we did as a district during that time was what we referred to as a one-time expense. If we were using the COVID money, it was to take care of things that we would take care of it. For example, teachers all got new laptops, right? What do we do that we then don't have to build into the budget from our community because the budget already can't hold it? And it's a one-time expense. We're not going to have that bill show up again the next year and the next year and the next year. So instead, the reserve money supplanted some of our bills. And it ended up in our reserves. It ended up in the reserves where it's making quite a bit of money in interest. And we are using the interest that the reserves are generating to if we go back to our revenue slide, there's an area of revenue called other revenue. That's where you're seeing interest revenue coming in to support the budget. The interest revenue, I'm going to put Dr. Capron on the spot. The interest revenue, are you ready? Are you ready? Was it $240,000, I think, that we supported this budget? Just in this budget.
Yeah, just the interest was, we jumped it up, significantly to, there was more in that particular budget category, but we took it up to, $80,000, $100,000.
Yeah, so just thinking about what we did, we've increased the revenue support of the budget, which meant it was okay that we went out at the property tax cap. Because we could generate the money using revenue. The revenue is important to us. The interest it's generating on that money is important to us. It's showing up in the revenue slides. So was it taxpayer money? The answer is no, it wasn't taxpayer money. So did we collect, did we have a levy in the years during COVID? We did. So there is a piece of this where you've got to almost look at the strategy, and someone asked me, I said, this sounds like a strategy. It is a strategy. It was very much a strategy. So the second question that I got after someone said, well, that sounds like a strategy, they said, why didn't we know that was a strategy? So just in general, we definitely report out on our reserves, and at board meetings that happens. I think what I can do in this moment for every taxpayer is say that I think what I'm hearing people say is maybe during budget presentations, when you do come in for something like this, next year, if we're talking about reserves in this moment, that I'm building in a reserve conversation in the budget conversation so you don't feel like you have to come to every board meeting in order to understand all the strategy that's going on. There was definitely strategy in the reserves and it's benefiting the taxpayer. I did double check with my colleagues. I just did a quick show of hands. I said, how many of you superintendents, how many of you during the COVID years did not And there was one out of the entire group of them that said we did not. That one actually gets 98 cents back on every dollar that they spend in aid. We get back between 74 and 84, depending on what we're buying. So there are some districts that generate more state aid, and they felt like they could be a little more gracious during that time. The rest of the superintendent said to me, we were in the most unprecedented time we've ever been in. It was not the time to not have enough money to do what might be coming next. Other questions?
Well, I think what's important, what I think is important is the audit report showed a $6.5 million mismanagement, they called it, or something, over the budget. Their exact wording, I don't remember what it was. But what I don't think people understand is, of that $6.5 million, how much of it came from taxpayers each year. So if you took $6.5 million, where's the sources of that money? By who? Who contributed that money?
You want to answer? Me, Mr. Cola.
So the question is, from start to end, we end up around $6.5 million. We have about 3.45, just shy of 3.5 million in that time. As Dr. Chanel just outlined, a huge portion of that is from CARES Act, CRSA, ARC. There's a couple other grants in there as well, and then there's also interest. We invested in treasury bills, which generated $400,000 and another $340,000 just from interest being generated from money sitting in reserves. Out of all that $3.5 million increase in those 4 fiscal years, 400,000 of that came from tax levy. So 100,000 a year was deposited into reserves, meaning we could say excess, or contingency, or money built into the budget, or a just in case. So just 100,000 a year, $400,000 total, out of $3.5 million in increases, out of $6.5 million total reserve.
And take that, like, from the perspective that I told you, I think we run an extremely conservative budget. We're talking about a $20 million budget last year. And if we get to the end of the year and we have spent where we have $100,000 left, whew, we did really good. We did really, really good. But you're talking about one major thing happening in the walls of this building that we would be able to handle. We would have been out of money. So the one thing to always know is that as taxpayers, when you approve the budget, you actually set the actual dollars and cents of what we can spend. We cannot spend over that amount. So to get within that, in terms of our budgeting and the decision-making that we're making, to get us down to about $100,000 of what's left over, that's really conscientious spending. Like if I had $100,000, so somebody said this to me, I would love to have $100,000 in my savings at home. I would too. I also don't have it at home. At home, I could make strategic decisions to make up my losses. Like if I needed to, I could tighten my belt and I could make some significant decreases in my expenditures. When you start to think about what that means for a school, I told you that one of the largest areas of increase that we're seeing in our budget, as are everyone else in the city of New York, is the increased cost of educating students with special needs. You can't run out of money to take care of a student that needs an aid as support. So when we're budgeting, we're not even 100% sure. I can tell you in this moment, I have no idea what our student enrollment will look like next year. A family could move in this summer and we could have expenses that show up at our door at registration that will be our responsibility, our collective responsibility to meet the need. So when we're building a budget, we've got to make sure that we're leaving ourselves enough to take care of all of those things. We're taking care of all of those things and ending up at the end of the year with $100,000. If we move that money into reserves, it generates aid, and we also get to use it in the next years to take care of other things that we need. So thinking about it as not overtaxing, I understand the concept of that, but that we are going to turn around and spend that money to do the work and the mission of the district.
So special needs students a great segue. One of the things we used to see in these budgets was the historical enrollment and the projected enrollment. That's no longer seems to be included, and also a breakout of maybe the percentage of special needs students and the cost per student, because it's got to be higher for special needs. And you know what I'm saying? I don't know if providing that information makes any sense, but I just kind of feel like you can say we have high expenses for special needs, but we don't even know. I don't know if anyone in this room knows how many there are, you know, in the enrollment of how many students you have. What do you have, about 800?
Can I put you on the spot? What's the percent? Do you know?
We have 111 students with disabilities.
111 students with disabilities enrolled in the district.
So 8%.
Is it, what is our percentage about that? Yeah, about 10. About 10%.
But do you understand my point?
Of course, of course.
For the taxpayers?
I did bring up total enrollment, so we can look at that for a second. One of the things that I definitely dug into to look at this, so I don't know that I have a slide on our per pupil costs. I might. I will go in here and look for it. We are the lowest per pupil cost in Livingston County. Caledonia, conservatively, we are the lowest in Livingston County, I can tell you that. There's one school district in our region that is below us, and they're just a little bit below us in the cost per pupil, and they have half the number of students that we have. So we are running an extremely conservative budget. One thing I did want to note though, as enrollment has dropped, so we do have, our enrollment is pretty stable right now. Projecting it out, we're actually projecting that we don't really see a decline. So we're probably going to stay, I'm going to say we're hovering at right around that 800 number. We're staying there. We've dipped a little bit, but not much. And when we're projecting it out, even looking next year at our incoming kindergarten next year, I'm hearing that kindergarten next year might be another one of those larger groups for us. We might get, and I say larger, like some of you are used to seeing class sizes of 150. For us, when we see a class size right around 70, that's a really big group for us. And there's a few of those in the district, and we're anticipating that the incoming kindergarten, not this year, but next year, we're seeing major numbers in our pre-K right now. So what I did is I just did a quick math because I was so curious. And this is something that I think just in general you should know. Every single time that someone retires in the district, we don't necessarily replace them. So I don't want to get us lost in the weeds of the data, so I think the clearest conversation for me to have with you is just the proportionality of, if we go back to 2009-10, we had 963 kids enrolled in the district, and we had 95, this is just teachers, 95 full-time teachers. When we get to 24-25, we have 797 kids enrolled in the district, and we have 80 teachers. We're still running right there at like 1 to 10. Teachers, in terms of who constitutes teachers, you're seeing in this number still like an OT, a PT, like folks that might only see 40 kids to take care of their needs across the entire week. But proportionally, we are not like some of the other districts, and I pay attention at this point to everybody's budgets, right? What are people doing in order to decrease their budgets? I would like to see that. There are some school districts around us that in order to decrease their budget and close their gap, they've actually gone from 4 sections, let's say 4 sections of first grade, where they have 4 first grade teachers, down to 3 first grade teachers. We've been running 3 first grade teachers for years. We are 3 sections in the district right now. I couldn't make a recommendation to cut a teacher at the elementary level or at the secondary level without telling you that class sizes would go up significantly. Those are hard community conversations that we have to have, and I know that. But we've got to engage with one another over the course of this next 6 to 7 months to have real conversations about what it would look like for us and what we would be giving up if we were actually going to take the $21 million and try to drop it back down to $20 million or to $19 million. What are we talking about? What are the changes that we're looking to see? And for us, our greatest expense is people. So in order to make up costs, let's say to plan for a brand new teacher that we're hiring, we plan right around $90,000. make up that same $90,000 by saying, hey, facilities, we need you to cut $90,000. They probably couldn't even get that deep. To really change our budget, that's what we're talking about. Yes. He's coming.
My understanding is that if this budget does not pass, we'll then be forced to run on a contingency budget. And when I looked at the numbers in your mailing, thank you for sending that, by the way.
Yes.
It looks like the program component of the contingency budget is actually higher than the proposed budget. Can you explain that?
I can. So right now, when you see in a school our size, because I'm just going to talk about the manpower of administration, we don't take every single bill that we get and kind of divide it. So I'm going to use one very specific example for you, like legal fees. So we pay lawyers to do a lot of things for us. Unfortunately, we live in a litigious world, and as a school district, we have to make sure that we're doing things the correct way. Well, when you look at our original budget, we have every single lawyer fee actually scheduled to come out of that administrative component. Not most, but much of what we're actually spending in terms of legal counsel are things that started because a child was involved. We've never taken some of our bills and actually sliced them to say, this is an administrative component, it has to do with the big people. This is a student component, it has to do with the little people. We've always just put it together. We go into a contingent budget, we are going to have to start parsing that out. So we've begun to do some of that work. Like, what did we put into the administrative component that probably lives someplace else? So lots of conversations with auditors around this is what we've done, this is why we put it here. It was a strategic decision to put it there, just put it in the administrative component. Can we or should we move that into the instructional program, and getting advice for that? So you'll see that in order to live in a contingent budget, we're going to have to go in and make sense of the budget itself. We'll stay at the cap of what we can spend, but we're going to have to get much more strategic about where we place things in category. It's not wrong where we put it, and it won't be wrong where we move it to. It's just we're going to have to thin slice, and we haven't had to think like that. Great question.
Next week, we're basically deciding between two opportunities for the same price in taxes. I want to understand better, if we go to the contingency route and we can't do the capital project, will it ever be done? Is it postponed in a year? What happens to it if we say no next Tuesday?
I'm so glad you asked that, because this is one of the things that I actually said to both of these gentlemen today. Like, I have to make sure that I address that. The voters of Caledonia-Mumford have already approved by vote the 25-26 capital project. That capital project is happening completely outside of this budget. They're not the same. The capital project will move on.
Until there's another one, a new one, right?
Yes, until there's a new one. So again, we actually have a 5-year cycle on our capital projects as well. So when our aid comes back, we get building aid on our capital project. So as our aid comes back, you'll watch cycles for us where we go into a project and then we come off a project. And so we created that cycle. When the aid stops coming in, it's time for us to go back out for another project and regenerate the aid. It allows us to maintain our facility and to keep ourselves state-of-the-art by going and chasing after that bucket of money that the state has set aside, where it's aid on capital improvement. So yes, every 5 years, we're in every 5-year cycle to keep ourselves healthy. I mean, I can tell you that when we go into a capital project, there are things that this capital project is not going to address that we are going to have to take care of for 5 years to maintain our facility and keep ourselves operational. We run a building condition survey. We're constantly paying attention to the health and wellness of our facility and our infrastructure.
Question about buses.
Oh, it's your turn.
You cautioned or stated that there would be, we would say, no increase in our school taxes. But you should clarify that if you have been reassessed, you may see an increase.
Mr. Capron, did you hear that question?
I did.
He ran point on this, so I'm going to have him address this one. He's called a couple of assessors in the area just to make sure that we are certain of what this looks like. So I'm going to, did you hear his question?
I did. So
okay,
the question is, if my assessment went up, will that mean my taxes are going to go up, even if the levy stays the same? And the answer should be, if you had a full, just to put it in perspective, what happens when the school only collects the amount of money in the levy, and then it's divided up across all the taxpayers based on how much property, really what percentage property they own in the entire tax base. As a result, if one town increases their overall assessments, what it means is the tax rate in that town should be going down. So unless your home went up more than your neighbors, because maybe you had added on a new addition or did something where you made a capital improvement. But in general, if assessed value goes up because they do a new roll, the tax rate will proportionally go down to keep your tax bill the same. Did that answer your question?
In a way, I just don't, I'm in Baltimore County.
Okay.
Now, we have different assessors that, if he reassesses my house and raises the assessment, it doesn't necessarily mean the school tax is going to go down.
No, and just to be clear, the school's going to collect that levy of $7.9 something million will be all the money at desk. Even if we set the levy and your property value, everybody's property value went up, the school wouldn't collect any more money. So we actually will calculate a tax rate for every individual town. And the idea is then if the rolls go up in one town, the tax rate goes down in that town. If if something else happens, so you'll see in the 5 communities in the tax base here, the tax rate is pretty much different in every single one of them. And that's how it tries to make sure it's comparable, so that changing the rolls should not increase your tax bill.
I've gotten that question a lot. That's a lot of folks have asked that. Like, what happens if my property is assessed differently? What does that mean for my school taxes? That one, I think, required a couple of phone calls out to assessors just to make sure that we were there. I'm going to put you on the spot one more time. When you mentioned a few of them that you spoke to, like assessments, like should folks be bracing themselves for new assessments? I can't remember if that was part of the conversation.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, tell me I'm crazy and we'll move on.
No, I know, at this point, I'm not aware most of the assessors didn't say they have anything in the works certainly for this year compared to what was already done. But what you will say, if you look at your tax rolls, you'll see that sometimes the state actually tweaks the tax rolls by saying they're not up to market value the way they should. So occasionally what will happen is if you look at what's called the equalization rate, as it gets lower and lower from 1 down to, say, 0.7 or 0.6, then the assessors are motivated to redo their rules. But all these factors go together, so everybody should be paying a fair tax bill.
Okay, you had mentioned in the pamphlet that you sent out that if the budget didn't pass, that we wouldn't be able to use the facilities. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so basically what I said is not so much that you can't use the facility, it's that we will have to charge community use for the facility. And so thinking about some of the clubs and organizations that use our facility in the evening hours, I think the challenge for folks is going to be that maybe they don't even have a means by which to collect. They weren't thinking about, you've already signed up for maybe summer youth soccer, but now if someone who's soccer wants to use our fields, we're gonna have to charge for that. So it's gonna have a complexity in terms of what happens in a contingent budget to our ability to share the facility with the community at no cost. That's our current practice, that we do not charge the community. So if you have let's say Boy Scouts, for example, they want to come and use our facility, we don't charge them for using our facility. They do, as an organization, have to be insured to make sure that the organization is taking responsibility and liability for their event, so we require that as a school, but we don't add any additional cost. In a contingent budget, we would actually have to bill for the use of our property. Which is so strange, right? We've already paid for this.
I'm assuming the comptroller did their report in good faith, and what I thought I heard you say was that the results may have been somewhat sensationalized. I'm curious as to whether other districts experience that, and why just us?
So I'm going to tell you, yes, that other districts have also experienced that. So what I'm learning is that the comptroller's report, it doesn't seem to matter if the comptroller is reporting out on Caledonia Mumford or any of our neighbors. Doesn't matter. These are our reserves. Let's see, where are we? We are the fourth one in. I don't know what's happening to my slides here, ladies and gentlemen, but we are right here. This is CalMum. Mixed in this reserve table, you're going to see school districts in Livingston County, school districts in Monroe County. There's a few school districts in here that are way above us that also had comptrollers' reports. Their comptrollers' report read just like ours. Just like ours. So in general, what I'm understanding is that when the comptroller comes in and the comptroller is reviewing your financials, especially reserves, the comptroller they don't love reserves. They don't love them. I mean, I don't know how you function in a space where you have a massive responsibility of educating people's children and taking care of them without having some form of a savings account to make sure that whatever happens, you can respond to that. But it doesn't matter for us. We had about 20, I want to say our height was about 29% of our operating budget was in reserves spread across all of them, including our capital reserve. And I know a nearby district had almost 70%. And I can tell you, I read their comptroller's report and it read just like ours. So there's part of it that I think I'm trying to decide, like, am I desensitized to that? If I were you, if I were a community member and I read that about my school, I'd probably be thinking the same thing. So it's a matter of our conversations now in very open ways. The Board of Education and myself, we need to have lots of conversations in the open. We need to have some reserve workshops that you can come in and sit and listen to us talk about our reserves. We need to establish reserve targets. I'm a big fan of setting goals. I think if you're going to buy a car and you decide that you want to have a certain amount of money that you're going to put down so that your monthly payment would be a certain amount, you set a goal for yourself and then you save that money for that to happen. We should be able to share back out with you that we have a capital reserve, which is the money that we set aside to take care of our capital project. We should be able to say to you that we have a goal. Our capital reserve, before we go out for our next project, needs to have somewhere around $3.4 million in it. We need to just be able to build a document for you that you can see and say, oh, they actually are chasing after a savings account that looks like that so that they can chase after a capital project that's going to take care of all of these pieces. I think we've built it. We've built it. We're ready to start working with the board. I'm a firm believer in a goal and chasing after a goal. And I hope soon that you see our reserves as intentional, targeted, and that you say, yay, we hit our reserve target this year for capital project. Or, ooh, I watched the board meeting. We did not hit our target for the capital reserve. What does that mean for us in the next project? Well, it means we probably aren't going to get to some things, right? If we operate a little bit more transparently, I think you'll be proud of our reserves. proud of the way we budget, proud of the way we think about ourselves, both in the short term and the long term. My goal now is to help get us there, where, like, these guys look at the reserves. I'm not a business official, okay? So I look at the reserves like you look at the reserves, and I just want to talk about it not from a money standpoint. These guys are really excited about the reserves. When I say, but the community, and when we say this, they're like, but that's not what that means. They get very excited that we have a savings account, as they should. Our accountants are super excited that we have a savings account. The comptroller himself is actually very excited that we have a savings account. One side, he tells us you should not have as much reserves. The other side, he tells us, congratulations, you are not in fiscal stress. You have the ability to operate. You have liquid. You have cash flow. Good for you. And show you two separate reports. One that says one thing and one that says good for you. I will feel good about my goal when you guys say good for you. You have reserves, you have a target, you hit them. Congratulations. And then you know what they're for, what we're going to do with them. That's our future.
I just wanted to make a comment. I have the background in financial stuff, so a lot of what I read and see, this makes sense. But for the everyday busy mom and dad, kids in school, the current environment we're in, they don't even have time to read this, let alone understand it. And I think if there's any way you can, I like to say this, dumb it down and make it simpler to read and be consistent in how it's presented, because I think what you sent out this weekend is slightly different layout than what was in the first one. I think it would go a long way for helping, because I think you're on to the transparency thing, but also it's very difficult for people to understand. You know, I was telling Brendan, you know, what reserves are restricted and which ones are unrestricted. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And what does that mean? Because there's no explanation. We're just kind of giving the information, and you're doing it from your experience. He's doing it from what makes sense to him from his perspective. But everybody is a very diverse recipient of this stuff. And I don't know how you do it. I struggled in my career, but I think that attempt has to be made. And I do think the enrollment should be shared, and I do think cost per student at a percentage level needs to be shared, special need versus regular. And if there's a comparison of that, it needs to be the schools in Livingston County, not the schools, the big schools outside of here, you know? And then I have a thing about the bus. I understand about the buses and why, and it's good there's a plan. But I went to the school board years ago, and what really fries me about the buses is every bus I see has 8 or 10 kids. I think there ought to be a strategic plan to give kids a ride to school, because the bus costs the same to maintain, run, drive, whatever, with 8 kids versus 80 kids. And that just really bothers me. And we went to a standardized school start for both schools. I just don't understand, from a logistical standpoint and a cost standpoint, why the kids in some of the older grades, I mean, think about it. We're a crossroad community, right? You can make stop in Mumford, stop over the bridge, 2 stops at each place leaving, 1 at the monument, pick up everybody who's standing there. You know, I just don't understand it, but I'm not against the bus strategy.
Thank you. Challenge accepted for trying to create the newsletter in a way that is more user-friendly. It is a lot of information, and we're making lots of decisions around it. If we go any deeper into that, we then lose people in the weeds there. So, yeah, Brendan and I have had a conversation. I definitely want to have as a principal, I've always had a compact committee, and so something that I have already decided for myself for next year, that I want to have a committee of community folks that come and sit with me. Because I do think some of these things, for people to ask their questions or say, well, that doesn't make sense, can you say it like this, and say it like that, would be helpful to us. So challenge accepted.
I'd like to tag on to her point because I really appreciate the Chronicle and this meeting tonight and hearing the questions that people are bringing. It makes me feel more motivated to continue to ask questions to make everything work better. But I wanted to say, you had a slide tonight that was very helpful, refinements to appropriation. Yes, and even though I'm not positive, but I think if in this handout, rather than so much hard to understand charts, if you had that information, it would extend an olive branch to people because they would get a handle, even if it was controversial, it would help them not just, it's not dumbing it down, it's just making the point that there is recognition that there isn't, that you are not that decisions are made on an almost a day-to-day basis. So I think that information being missed is going to lead to people making conclusions that it was never done or is not important enough for them to know. So if you could continue to try to give people more reason to be in your shoes, then we'll be able to have a better agreement as to what we'll do going forward.
I want to say thanks. I think this was great. I have shied away from it and staying out of this stuff because I'm not too far out of retirement. I'm kind of, when I threw my hand in the ring and said I'm going to retire and I couldn't do this anymore. But anyways, I do appreciate the meeting, but I also want to say this is a very difficult time. This community's been through a lot between the changes the village made, the fire department thing, you know, and all the chaos that's going around, you know, just all the cost increases and the chaos our country is in, you know, it's tough times. So it's just, the school budget thing was just another thing that I think people showed some distaste towards, which maybe if the environment was different, it wouldn't have happened. So thanks for trying to do it.
Thank you.
The school bus situation, this has been a pet peeve of mine. I was on the school board here for 9 years back in the 80s, and I was always complaining about the buses then. Why? I rarely see a full bus, rarely. Why can't we buy smaller buses? Wouldn't they be cheap?
They're not necessarily cheaper. I think the second, you know, Bruce, you can weigh in on that. I feel like this, I'm not opposed to tossing it, but just in general, like the second you need a big bus. So think about a day, and I hate to say this, but like plan for the worst, hope for the best. Think about a day where we have to get all the kids out of here. We got to load buses and we have got to get out of here. If we had a fleet of all small buses, we wouldn't be able to manage our safety plans. So even on just one day where we can say in this moment it would reduce costs every day, we actually have to think about the worst case scenario of anything that we could need. So the principal in me says I can't have a lot of small buses. Financially, building them.
And financially, I guess I just remind everybody we get really strong aid both on the purchase of the bus as well as on operation. And the other part of it is the, you know, Dr. Chanel said, the smaller buses, the cost doesn't drop that much. And again, the other part is all your extra activities and sports. You know, you need to transport a sports team, you probably need a big bus. So.
But why can't we, if we're going to use a bigger bus, why can't we reduce the number of buses, pick up more kids? I mean, you need less drivers, but you always have a problem with getting.
I'm currently recruiting. Yeah, I hear you. So you're asking, I think you're asking the same question that was asked, which is, are we running the most efficient bus routes that we can? We believe we are. Have we asked someone on the outside to come and study our runs? When I first got here, we had 9 campus runs. We have 8 campus runs. We actually have a bus that, we have kids at the elementary school that wait for 6 minutes, 8 minutes. They wait for 8 minutes after middle high school dismissal for the bus to make its way out of here and then stop there and pick them up. So I can tell you that from our lens of just like the daily operation of the school, I think we're running pretty efficient. Have I asked somebody though from the outside that's not us to come in and take a look and challenge our efficiencies? I haven't, but it's not a bad idea. You know, sometimes fresh set of eyes helps you see something different.
One last thing, keep referring to state aid, but it mixed up with that because we're paying for state aid, so it's taxes out of us all
The way I see it, they're taking it anyways, right? And we at least have to go and try to get some of it back, right? So think of it as a game of chess. We're going to try to play it really well. Very good.
So for the buses though, I don't really understand it. My kids never rode the bus because the daycare was out of town. But, so do elementary and high school kids mix on the bus? And they're still not full? Because we stopped letting big kids above what grade in the village don't get to ride it.
6th grade and up.
So
based on
6 through
mileage.
12 in the village, residing in the village, don't ride it. So I guess if I was on the committee, that's where I would start to see how many, you know what I mean?
Without going like really deep into the weeds on this, because there is a really deep in the weeds on this.
I'm sure. There is everything.
There is, and that the one thing about school finance is there's nothing really simple about it. Again, it's a game of chess. So I'm not going to go into the weeds, but please know that transportation aid on our runs is actually factored into how our runs exist. So there are kids at the elementary school that we should not be transporting. We don't generate aid on transporting them. We got to get really creative in how we build our runs to be able to still have that whole run get aid. I could take you into the weeds on that in seconds, but there are reasons why some of the buses don't have a lot. And you could say that, fill the buses. But then if you don't build your runs the right way, you actually won't get aid on the run. So to our point, like the municipal law and aid and how it's generated, there are books that we read, they're like, oh, did we do that well? We try very hard to generate every dollar of aid, and I'm going to tell you, even with being thoughtful about it, we probably leave money on the table because we didn't maybe have that one go the right way or turn down the right street. But if we stop and pick up all the kids, I just want to tell you, we will, I know just based on what I understand of transportation aid, we will not get aided on those runs.
You also have kids on the bus for hours.
Yeah, that too. Kids be on the bus for a long time. But yeah, what we sometimes think is a nicety of like it just doesn't make sense. Well, sometimes the reason things don't make sense, and I agree with you, it doesn't really feel that rational, but there's a law and a rule over here that we're complying with, which makes our decision making look irrational. But
So where's our lobbyists to fight the laws?
Are we ready for electric buses?
Are we ready for electric buses? Can we not talk about electric buses? Can you come back on June the 18th? We're in no hurry, sir. We're in no hurry. That's the answer. There's a question in the back.
So about the buses, no, I'm kidding. I know you sent out a newsletter, which I haven't looked at, but so say I hear about this newsletter, I'm a community member, I want to go and find out about this budget. Okay, let me go to the Caledonia Mumford Central School District website, because that should be reliable. Oh, great, there's a link about the budget. There's no information about this current second budget vote, the contingent budget. Is there, if I click on that link that's on the homepage, it just says there's a vote May 13th.
Okay.
I think if we want the community to know of what date to vote, it should be very obvious. Okay, another example. I look at this, all right, well, maybe they didn't update it. I'm a millennial, let me go to Instagram. Okay, scroll down, it's like 9 posts in. It's not a story, it's not pinned at the top. Okay, maybe I'm not as savvy on Instagram.
It will be this next week.
Let me go to Facebook. It's not on the banner. Like I gotta scroll way back. I think maybe we need to disseminate the information. Well, it needs to be on the school website, obviously, and then maybe more apparent on social media. Just suggestions from maybe somebody who's a bit younger.
Thank you. You'll see it on social media soon. We don't want fatigue, but it's coming.
Question is on Facebook. I saw it. It was on Facebook, but now, like, I want to know what the dates was published. Like, pinned as the first post on your Instagram. Maybe it should be the banner on your Facebook page. It should be on your website.
Thank you.
I'm a baby boomer. I live in a house with this woman over here. I couldn't find it either. Just a clarification on what happens to the capital project if we end up in a continued budget. And the meeting last meeting previous to this about the budget stuff, there was option 3. The first thing in option 3 was you can't do capital stuff. What does that mean? You said it differently than you are.
There's definitely a difference between the capital project, which has been voter approved, and any capital improvement outside of that project that we want to do. So let's take the capital outlay project as an example. We want to update this building, some of the HVAC unit. We would not be able to do that. That would be a capital expenditure out of this budget that we would not be allowed to make. So anything that has to do with improving our infrastructure, our capital, that we would have spent out of the voter-approved budget, we cannot do. The capital project itself, though, the 25-26 capital project, the voters have already voted and approved. That project has launched, and it is moving along the way. It's actually a completely different budget running on its own that you've already approved as voters.
It was approved last year, the year before. Right?
Yes, yes.
It was previously approved.
Yes, a separate vote, separate from the budget vote. Capital projects go up for their own vote, and they're voted on by the community, up or down. So think about that separately. However, capital improvements to our property, unless it becomes an emergency, they would allow us to expend on an emergency. But other than that, we would see no capital improvement out of the budget. What's appropriate? Wait. I can't tell you to vote yes, but I can tell you to vote. So we do ask that you come out and vote. Your decision to vote, we understand, is a personal one, and we respect it. As a school, I think I would just speak on behalf of the board and the administrative team right now and just tell you that we believe we've built a conservative budget that meets the expectations that the community has set for the academics that kids experience here. I feel very strongly, I came here in 2018, I feel very strongly that the students that graduated in 2018 had a remarkable experience. The children that are going to graduate in 2025 have had a remarkable experience. I hope the children that graduate in 2035 and 2040 have a remarkable experience. We are not just thinking about ourselves in this budget, we are thinking about ourselves in terms of what does it mean to graduate from Caledonia Mumford Central School District and that we're maintaining that level of excellence. This budget does that, and I'm proud of it. I hope the community does support the budget and the future of Caledonia schools. Thanks for coming out tonight. Any questions that you have, please go answer. Always, absolutely. Don't say that. Can you imagine the expenditures on the infrastructure? Good job. Thank you so much for your feedback. Call anytime.
Oh, I did. I come.
That's what as soon as you said you talked to Brendan, I was like, oh, at least it's called right now. Yeah, don't hesitate, call anytime. No, two school buildings, elementary and middle high school. This building has one SRO.
Maybe because we're a ranch, I was like 120.
Did you tax, how much did you tax for this?
Not commensurate with that, but I paid
that's what we
extra $800 in state tax. I was a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what I mean relative to the neighbors. I have seen cases in our community down by Naples where they will cycle through and like every couple of years they decide to reassess the hill property up in the Crystal Hills. And then next 2 years they'll reassess the lake property. And then they'll reassess the residential property.
We were convinced
so there
it
some
was
stuff.
one-story house time because my neighbors with their colonials did not go.
I appreciate what you're saying there, but technically.
I'm just saying, be cautious with that answer.
Thank you.
It's madness.
And that's what I mean. More than your neighbor.
No, but we are.
Everybody, if they just came in and said, the tax rolls are going up 40%, and everybody's property went up 40%.
Absolutely. There'd be no difference.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
thanks for the talk.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Probably already panicking over it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Bruce, to Sue, to you. That's the chain. I haven't paid it any attention. Yeah, my bad.
Great.
I'm hungry now.
What?
I was doing okay. So many hours.
Mike, are you in terms of the motion?
I didn't read anything.
No.
Oh, is that, so my concern is, do we have to give public notice that we'd be having
Another meeting?
I don't know.
No, we can adjourn.
Okay.
We can adjourn and return.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I checked that with legal counsel before our last
wondering
meeting
about that.
because I wanted to know how to close out and come back.
You know, if we start up another meeting.
It's the same meeting, it's a continuation.
Just continuing.
Thank you so much.
A lot of talk about buses.
Oh. Just know that Ron Otto gets SA done every week.
Well, what I was thinking is, it'd be worth mentioning how long the runs are for some of those kids.
But I appreciate what you're saying.
You know, I understand what they're saying about efficiencies,
Me
but
too.
like it's like an hour and it's over an hour.
Where'd everybody go?
I know, nobody else is
I don't, we definitely have our first run about an hour, because the first run goes out at 6:30 and probably does its first pickup by like 6:35, and back on campus by 7:20, 7:25, so
That's
yeah.
nice.
Yeah. My computer is still locked up, but you,
I don't know, I'm ready to. I need some dinner now, I'm starving. I was doing okay till I got.
just go, I got it. Yeah, John's ready to go. It's just the agenda for here.
Can I have a motion to re-enter our meeting, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? That's passed. Welcome back. We just finished our budget hearing and we're going to continue on with our regularly scheduled meeting. We are going to move on to old business. Number 1, adoption of code of conduct. Dr. Chanel, did you want to speak to this before I read?
We actually reviewed the code of conduct the last time that we were together and did a presentation on that. So it's a few minor changes to the code. Just to recall what we did, I want to say it was the addition of some language around truancy, and then there was some language in there around students helping others plagiarize. So it was a couple of edits in blue for the community to examine. So it's been up for its 30-day comment period, and today we're allowed to take action on the code.
Thank you. Just to, well, I'll say that discussion. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the district-wide code of conduct for the 2025-2026 school year. Can I have a motion, please?
Yes, I'd make it.
A second?
Second.
Discussion?
Can I just add that we did not implement the cell phone ban that you're going to see next year in this particular code of conduct. We do need to address that through board policy, so the next time our policy committee is together. So you will see one more revision to the code before the close of the summer. So the code will be sitting in front of you in July with some updates around cell phone policy.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Sorry.
So thank you for mentioning. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 2, approval of revision to board policy. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the revisions to number 3311, notification of disclosure of employee disciplinary records. Number 7670, due process complaints, selection and board appointment of impartial hearing officers. Number 1210, board members, nomination and election. Number 7440, student voter registration and pre-registration. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? I have fielded a few questions regarding the board member nomination and election, which specifically addressed the de facto student member. In talking with Dr. Chanel, she will come up with guidelines for that following this meeting with the sentiments of the board. Is there any further discussion on that? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Moving on to new business. Number 1, date of the annual organization meeting. Resolved that the Board of Education hold its annual organizational meeting per board policy number 1620 on Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Acceptance of bid number 2. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the cleaning service bid from B&T Building Services for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Quick question on this. It goes along with what John asked about the capital project employees. Are these employees vetted by the district before they start, or is it just, are we relying on the company to do that vetting?
Both. The company does have standard of practice for vetting, and so then they will submit to us their employees that will be coming here to work, and we will also run them through our systems.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 3, sale and disposal of school district property. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, award the bid for miscellaneous items to the highest bidders from Auctions International website per board policy number 5250, sale and disposal of school district property. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 4, approval of new civil service position of school bus dispatcher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the creation of a roster position for the civil service title of school bus dispatcher effective June 11th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 5, approval of intermunicipal cooperative agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the intermunicipal cooperative agreement with the Livonia Central School District regarding the placement of students in special education programs that have capacity for additional students in the 2024-2025 school year per attached resolution. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 6, approval of transportation services agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the written agreement between C and F Transportation and the Caledonia Mumford Central School District for student transportation needs and authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the same. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 7, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with CMTA. Congratulations, Dr. Chanel, on this. Thank you. And the committee and everybody that worked so hard to get it. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, ratify the collective bargaining agreement between the Caledonia Mumford Teachers Association and the superintendent of schools effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I will just let you all know that what you have in, what you got in your email inbox is actually there's no change from the conversation that we had last time we discussed this negotiated agreement. You'll notice that the agreement itself that you're looking at is not polished. It's still in its version of what we confer as draft. Memorandums of understanding that have taken place over the last couple of years still have to be pulled into this particular document, so you're still seeing a document in draft. What you're ratifying this evening is the commitments that we did make during our negotiation process back towards the contract. So thank you.
Will we have to approve the final draft of this?
You don't. You don't. I asked that question too. So what you're approving is that the content. You're not going to approve like the final clean version where there's no typos and no red lines. So what you're seeing now is the committed language of the contract that we've agreed upon. And then it will go through a series of, the MOAs are already things that the board has approved. So those MOAs will actually be coming over. So the board has already taken action on those. And then it's just going to be a lot of, grammar and mechanics and getting rid of all of the red lines to come to a finished document. I'm told that could probably take us until about August before that document is nice and clean. So the teachers union has already voted to ratify, and it's your all's turn.
Any other discussion, questions?
I did not read a single page of that document. We got it this afternoon, and I don't know whether I abstain because I'm completely uneducated on it, even though I participated in the discussion on that committee, or I don't feel comfortable voting no because it's something that I was comfortable with when we were negotiating it, but I'm unsettled with voting to approve something that I haven't seen. So I don't know. I'm stuck on that one.
Okay. Any other discussion? Ma'am, I'm sorry, can I have a vote? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I guess I'm abstaining on that.
Okay.
Apologies.
That motion is carried. Stars of Tomorrow Gala Rates. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the Stars of Tomorrow Gala rates for the 2024-2025 school year. Rehearsal, $25 a day, and performance, $50 a day. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Yep.
Second. Any discussion?
Didn't they already do this,
I was going
or?
to say, is it 24, 25, or 25, 26?
No, this is
It's
for this spring.
current- Okay, thank you.
All right.
Oh, we're doing this after they performed, or am I confused about?
The date, so in terms of this, the This did not make its way into the reorganizational meeting in July, and these rates are not contractual. So I technically can't pay claim forms that I don't have a board resolution for.
Oh, okay.
So I need to have a board resolution that allows me to pay folks. This is exactly what we paid them last year with no increases. I do think it should make its way into the reorganizational meeting. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 9, acceptance of gift to the school district. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept the gift of Wonder Books, a print book with ready-to-play audio, a $500 donation from Deb Gear to the library. This is in accordance with board policy number 5230. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second? Any discussion?
I would just say thank you to Courtney Monahan for working so closely to secure text. She actually did pick the books out, so these have been really curated in the same ways that we curate all other texts in our library. So thank you to Courtney.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Moving on to board self-evaluation. We had tabled this at our last meeting because we got some information, some data from our district clerk that people were not able to review, so we are in a position of discussing our recent board self-evaluation. You all have that in front of you. You know, I'm pleased with the progress we've made in the last year. I think the numbers that we see trending upwards are good. I would say I think that there's still room for improvement and for us to grow as a group. But I would like to open this up for discussion for everybody, please.
So last meeting, we decided to table this because we got new information at 3 o'clock from the district clerk. And today, we got new information on the biggest contract we have with the district, with the teachers union. That's our functioning, like directly related to the board functioning is our ability to be prepared to fulfill our duties.
So you're saying that it seems kind of similar from one to the other?
It's exactly the same.
I would say for me that we have had conversations in executive session as we moved throughout the negotiation process. So what you're seeing collected in this, reflected in this document authored by our legal counsel, who served as our chair, is exactly what we agreed to, and you've been briefed on that in executive session. I understand your concern. I just think that I would like to point out that I think that's what makes it different.
So past precedent, I've expressed concerns in executive session and had commitments in executive session. And then the way it works out when we actually approve things, it doesn't happen the way it was agreed to in executive session. And that is not the circumstance here. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm not comfortable. What I'm saying is I'm not comfortable making decisions without having information. And I think it was prudent of Liz last time to say, we haven't had this for very long, let's pause it. We have a huge responsibility in what we do, and I think it's so important for us to be educated on every single thing we decide and approve. We are answerable to the community. Yeah, so I thought it was a smart choice to postpone that last time. And under the same standards, I mean, I guess I'm salty about it, and it's probably inappropriate for me to bring this up now since it just happened. But, I mean, this is essentially a complaint about the way we function.
I respectfully hear what you're saying, Mike, and I'm sorry that you were disappointed in how things went. Right now, I would like to lead the board in the self-evaluation discussion, and maybe that could be a part of this, maybe it can't, but I think that we do have the board self-eval that we need to address. My intention was never to be inconsistent. So I apologize if you feel that way. Regarding the board self-eval, I do think it's important that we as a board talk about that, and the progress we've made as a board over the course of the last year and where we're headed. I did send an email late last week asking for some feedback on times to regroup this summer. I proposed the dates of August 4th and August 8th. I heard back from 2 of you. And one person is going to possibly, no, I heard back from 2 of you that those were good dates, so we have to discuss that as well.
For me, I'm not sure which, you can just put me down for both dates.
We only need one, so we only need one date. I just didn't know if one date was better for a majority of you or not. Sounds like either is good for you?
Either's good for me,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
How do I access the digital copy of it? Because I don't have a printout copy of
Yeah, I'm
the
looking for
results,
it.
and I don't know where they are.
I thought it was in the
I
back
thought it was
notes.
too, but I,
Where did I see that?
So I'm, not, let me look.
I'm
I am
sorry, 'cause
not- No, you're fine.
I wanted to comment on something, but I need the,
So in my backup notes online, I actually am not seeing, was it in last
Gotta be way at
month's-
the end.
Am I missing something? Was it, because it.
Mrs. Booth, did you resend that to the board this time in backup notes on Friday?
Oh, I saw it on my on my email, but I don't see it in this.
I don't either.
So that's what I saw back
Can I get
in
to
my
my
email.
email? Let me just get to my
So it was sent to us in our backup notes on Friday. It looks like it's not in front of us in this
Right.
CAMI version. So tell me how you want to proceed.
Let me just,
We need to have it in front of us somehow.
it's in the executive.
Say that again, Mrs. Booth?
In the executive session. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is an executive session. Thank
Oh.
you, Ms. Booth. So you all can reference it there for now, with what's in front of us. I had a paper copy, so I wasn't looking at that.
Oh,
Sorry, guys.
there it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
So where is that?
So, executive session.
Oh, up there, okay.
I can't click on your.
No, I
have
gotta click on it,
difficulty.
okay. Thanks.
If you click there, then you can just go to something that you can click
Yep,
right.
yep, okay,
Can
thanks,
everyone see it
Becca.
now?
Yes.
It's on page 17.
Yep,
All right, we're good. Thank you.
I do think we as a board have made improvement. I think some of the work we did in our workshops was helpful. I have seen growth. I do think that there's some opportunity for us moving forward to make continued growth. I think the 4th and the 8th will allow us the opportunity to do that and to set our board goals. As you're aware, the board goals are from 20, they end this year.
Mhm.
So we have to do that. There's been a lot of change this year. We have a new board president, myself. We have a new superintendent that started in February. I think there is some learning curve for all of us.
got
But
a new member.
a new
board
member. We had 2 new board members last year, but, you know, I can't lead this discussion by myself. Those are my thoughts.
Liz, I didn't get the email. I'm sure I got it. I'm not good with emails.
Mhm.
The 4th is okay with me, the 8th isn't.
Okay. Thank you.
And as far as the growth that this board has made, let's say in the last 12 months, we hit a couple low spots then we seem to level off. And I would say in the last 4 to 5 months, the direction's upward. I'm personally very, I won't satisfied with being under. I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with the direction that I've seen in the last, say, 5 months, and with all that you just said 4 sentences ago. Moving forward, I can't say that the limits are endless, but we've got a very good group here, and that pleases me, because I've been on some boards where there weren't very good groups. They were actually terrible. And this one is, I'm personally delighted. I'm giving it my thing of approval, whatever it's called.
Okay. Thank you, John.
So thank you to the other 5 of you, and Arnie, it's not your first rodeo.
So a couple thoughts I had. I think that our group work together was beneficial doing that. I also think that our Becky coming on has kind of reinvigorated our engagement with the curriculum and goals of the building, and joining NYSBA has kind of brought an awareness that the board and administration should be collaborating together to set goals for the district. We're kind of in a bubble here where, as board members, we might not be aware of the needs and ambitions of the admin team. And I feel like NYSBA has kind of made that clear that, like you said, our summer workshops are designed for that purpose, and that's something new for us that I think we should all look forward to, and hopefully it makes a more effective product for the community and students.
So as I was looking through the board evaluation, one of the things that really stuck out to me was that it seemed like as a board, we kind of rated ourselves lower with our interaction with the educational program and the instructional. And as a member of the board, that's one thing I have talked about with Becky a few times, that, and as Mike was just saying, we are kind of removed from some of that stuff. And that is something that, as a board, I think we see across the board, us wanting to be more involved in that, and not involved in that without hearing from the stakeholders. We want to have the principals coming and talking to us. We want to hear what's going on in the schools, what the community wants our schools to look like, and then to be able to formulate what that looks like for our schools. But to have that interaction between everyone so that we are really representing the education that our students should be having, that they need, and that the community feels is appropriate for them.
Oh, I agree with both of you. I've had a couple conversations, just to piggyback off on that before someone else speaks. I have started some discussions with Dr. Chanel, and I've shared with some of you on the board about making the administrators, or having the administrators be an more active role with presentations and sharing of information, and making sure we do that in a thoughtful and meaningful way. And I think this summer our work could consist of that, because I can't make those decisions in a bubble by myself. We as a board need to make them. So I look forward to that. One of the things that I've heard a few times is that board members are hearing information through the community, which I've been in that situation where I'm out in the community and I hear something that I didn't necessarily know. Do I know everything that's going on in the school district? Absolutely not. But sometimes things you want to know. So just making sure that those communication streams and those avenues are open for us as board members to really know what's going on instructionally, academically is important, and I've heard that. And I think Dr. Chanel is invested in making sure we get that.
I think the goal of working with Dr. Chanel as a new superintendent, and for me as a new board member, has gone well, and I think that I've been very pleased at how well she is communicating with us and with the community. And so as far as one of the goals that we have is of supporting the new superintendent and helping her to get on board has certainly gone well. She definitely had to, start on the first day. And keep going, paddling fast. So I think that's been very good. And I also appreciate the goal of working on the literacy, and is important, and I would like to be part of that.
Liz, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, nothing to add. I think we've made good progress. There's always room for growth, and I think we're poised to latch onto that and keep going.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion around this? I'll move forward with sending out a date. It sounds like the 4th is going to work better for us. I'm anticipating a 4 to 5 hour block. Do people prefer morning or afternoons blocks?
Well, I didn't know anything about the morning or afternoon thing, I'm sorry.
This is on
What are we looking at again? August
the
4th or
it's
8th?
It's a Monday, I believe.
Okay.
I see it as like, I want to plan for 5 hours, hoping we use 4, but knowing how this board works, we do like to talk, and there's not a lot of opportunities for us to do that, so this is a great opportunity. So I would like to plan 5 hours. I'm thinking 8 to 1, 12 to 5, or 4 to 9. I'm just waiting for you guys to sort of share with me what the best time of day is for people.
About 6 to 11.
You're killing me.
After I wake up in the morning.
And Liz, remember, I'm going to be out of town that week, so I would need to remote into it.
Yes.
Okay, will that be?
We're going to add that to the, I think that that's fine, but we do need to discuss remoting and add something to our policy around that. But I think that will be fine for the workshop.
Okay, thank you.
I did have Sue pull policy language on that. We do have some policy language. I'll share with you all what we have.
Okay.
Ours really just aligns to the law.
I'd just like to revisit it. But I'm comfortable with that. Liz is asked to remote in. I think that it's, sometimes as board members, we can't always be here, but we want to be. And I think this might be an opportunity where we can allow someone to do that. All right, I will send out a follow-up email about times, but it looks like we're going to shoot for August 4th.
Okay.
And I look forward to that work. So thank you very much. There's no resolution needed for that. So we'll move on.
11 in the morning? Okay.
Need to make sure I'm moving on to
I'm not, but I got to work. A little bit.
That's serious.
Is it
No,
Are you guys good?
yeah, we'll just,
trying to switch schedules?
yeah.
Number 11. Number 11, correct?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Approval of health and welfare services. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the attached health and welfare contract with Penfield School District per attached document. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 12, approval of Hunt Architect and Engineering Contract. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the Hunt Architect and Engineering Contract for the 2025-2026 capital project as attached. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. We are now going to move to executive session. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session at 8:50 p.m. to discuss the employment and employee history of particular persons and matters leading to the appointment. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. We will be back after executive session. Resolved that the Board of Education return to regular session at 9:37 p.m. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. We're going to move on to personnel. Number 1, appointment of summer workers. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the following 2025 summer workers effective June 30th, 2025 through on or about August 18th, 2025 as listed. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 2, resignation of bus driver for purpose of retirement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept with regret and best wishes the resignation for the purpose of retirement, Dan Freeman, bus driver, effective August 31st, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 3, resignation of bus driver for purpose of retirement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept with regret and best wishes the resignation for the purpose of retirement, Jim McManus, bus driver, effective August 31st, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 4, resignation of bus driver. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept with regret and best wishes the resignation of Tim McQuinlan, bus driver, effective June 27th, 2025. Motion, please.
Yep.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 5, resignation of elementary teacher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept with regret and best wishes the resignation of Carly McCory, occupational therapist, effective June 30th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 6, appointment of interscholastic coaches positions. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint the attached list of interscholastic coaches positions for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 7, appointment of extracurricular advisor positions. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint the attached list of extracurricular advisor positions for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 8, appointment of special education teacher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Amanda Yannick to a probationary 1.0 FTE appointment of special education teacher, tenure position, effective July 1, 2024 through August 31st, 2028. The appointee holds initial certification in students with disabilities, all grades, and initial certification in Spanish 7 through 12. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 9, approval of extra trip coordinator stipend. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the stipend for Edward Mitchell as extra trip coordinator for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 10 has been deleted, so we're going to move to number 11, appointment of special ed teacher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Jessica Booth to the 1.0 FTE probationary tenure position of special education teacher, effective August 28th, 2025 through August 27th, 2029. The appointee holds initial certifications in childhood education, grades 1 through 6, and students with disabilities 1 through 6. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 12, appointment of elementary summer reading program teachers. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint the following teachers for the 2025 summer literacy program as listed. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. 13, appointment of special ed teacher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Angela Guza to the 1.0 FTE probationary tenure position of special education teacher effective August 28, 2025 through August 27, 2029. The appointee holds permanent certification in special education. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 14 has also been deleted, so we will move to 15. Approval of mentor. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve Trish McMullen as mentor to Emily DeVore, retroactive from April through June of 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. 16, approval of MOA. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the written agreement between the Superintendent of Schools and the Caledonia Mumford Support Staff Association executed on February 25th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 17, permanent appointment of computer service assistant. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Ian Wilson to the permanent civil service position of computer service assistant effective June 11th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 18, resignation of school bus mechanic. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept with regret and best wishes the resignation of Reese Lambert, automotive mechanic, effective July 6, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 19, approval of MOA. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the written agreement between the Superintendent of Schools and Caledonia Mumford Support Staff Association, executed on June 10th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 20, appointment of school bus dispatcher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Andrea Orr to the 1.0 FTE civil service provisional position of school bus dispatcher, effective June 11th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 21, appointment of school bus monitor. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Sue Mills to a summer bus monitor position effective June 30th through on or about August 30th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. 22, resignation of school bus driver. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept with regret and best wishes the resignation of Richard Greer, bus driver, effective June 28, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 23, approval of compensation agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the compensation agreement with the secretary to the superintendent as attached. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion is carried. Good? Yep, okay. I'm going fast, so I just don't know if I missed something. Number 24, approval of MOA. Resolved that the Board of Education approves a written agreement between the Superintendent of Schools and Supervisor of Transportation executed on June 10th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Finally. Whew. We're going to move to adjournment. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn the meeting of June 10th, 2025 at 9:48 PM. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Have a good evening.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. That
Very
was a
cool.
lot of district business.